Hope everyone had a fabulous holiday and good health and happiness to all in the new year. The first item on the agenda, the consolidated public hearing, the DPW Scenic Road and Stonewall tree removal has been postponed because the trees were not marked in time according to Mass General Law. So that will be held on January 26th. The next item on the agenda is a discussion item, 4042 Central Street, site plan compliance. I will. The Southborough Historical Society should be commended for the work done on Fayville Hall. It looks beautiful on the outside, and the pictures that I have seen from the inside are also quite impressive. That being said, that does not negate the fact that the Southborough Historical Society is required to build the site in compliance with the approved site plan and the conditions thereof, just as any other proponent is required to comply with their site plan. This Southborough zoning code is approved by the legislative body. What's that? And the planning board works to ensure all projects that come before us comply with the code as approved by the residents of the town in Mass General Law. The 4042 Central Street project, Fayville Hall, was treated the same as all other projects before the board and was permitted in compliance with the applicable sections of Southborough Code and Mass General Law. The planning board accepted that this project was a Dover protected use, and the project was approved under the confines of Mass General Law 48, Section 3, also known as the Dover Amendment, with town council and the proponent's attorney present to ensure that. The planning board has approved site plans for other Dover protected educational uses, and all have complied with their approved site plan. The new Dover guidelines that the Southborough Historical Society refers to as a reason to not comply with the approved site plan offer no basis for non-compliance. The major site plan approval decision was never appealed, therefore it is binding. Also, the guidelines speak to the broad interpretation of what is considered education and religious uses. The planning board accepted that this project was a Dover protected educational use, and it was permitted under those confines. The claim that the planning board has refused to issue a temporary occupancy permit is false. This is the first time the Southborough Historical Society has come before the board. The board has never received any documentation as to the status of the project, although it has been requested. The claim that the Southborough Historical Society protested to the conditions of the major site plan approval is incorrect. The draft decision was reviewed line by line by the planning board and the proponent and agreed upon at a public hearing on July 24, 2023, and it's on YouTube. The only protestation was the requirement for native species, which is also a condition of the Concom permit. And native species, as opposed to a cultivar, does not excessively burden the project. The goal of tonight's discussion is to lay out a path forward where the Southborough Historical Society can gain an occupancy permit, which is in accordance with Southborough Zoning Code 174-10J, which states, the issue of an occupancy permit shall not be given prior to the satisfactory completion of all elements and conditions of the approved site plan. A temporary occupancy permit may be issued after satisfactory completion of all items essential to public health and safety and sufficient bonding acceptable to the planning board is provided to the town to cover all outstanding items. Before we hear from the proponent on what items on the site have been completed, what items remain to be completed, and what changes have been made from the approved site plan, I want to ask the board if you want to start with asking Jay any questions that you may have? Ms. Houlihan?
Sounds like you're back online.
Colleen, that's me.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, Colleen, are you running some sound in the background?
I'm hearing you guys echo. Yes, it sounds like your microphones are back on.
Yeah, you need to switch this off. It might be your phone.
Switch to phone. I did it.
You.
I just needed to talk to him. There we go. I still have to.
Just mute.
We'll give your microphone, Karina. Just use your microphone.
Any questions for Jay?
I do not.
Mr. Maria? Ms. Braccio?
Thank you. I have a couple. So, Jay, in looking at the decision, one of the conditions was that no exterior lighting was proposed at this time in the project. It's subject to the understanding that lighting levels will not go beyond standard safety requirements. Any proposed future exterior lighting will require modification to the site plan with the planning board in accordance with Town Code 174-12-1 outdoor illumination. Is that still valid? I know we had a site visit, and thank you for that. That was one of the questions I had asked, and I was told by the applicant that that is covered by Dover, and the planning board has no say as far as exterior lighting.
So there's nothing about operation.
Can you guys please speak up? It's not very loud in here.
There's nothing inherent in the Dover Amendment that excuses anyone from the process of going through site plan approval or a special permit process or anything like that. You have to comply with it for this type of use. There are some Dover Amendment uses where you can't even do that. This is not one of them. Educational, you can require that process. The scope of that review, however, is really limited. So we can look at certain things, and the planning board members that were around the first go around will recall that one of the cautions that I had is that if you're imposing conditions of approval, that it should relate to one of the few subject areas that you can regulate under Dover. One of those is parking. So there was a significant amount. There was a few other issues, as I recall, where we were talking about the front of the building and imposing conditions, and we kind of peeled back from that. I think we were a little more cautious on that. But we did impose some conditions in and around issues on the parking lot for drainage, for just the basic adherence to landscaping, materials, all those kinds of things. So if lighting a parking lot was an issue, I would say that that is something that we could certainly regulate. However, I don't know what else we would have the authority to regulate until that proposal was before us. So any applicant for a use that might be protected by Dover that has to go through site plan review still has to go through site plan review. So I'm not aware of what if the lighting was towards the front of the building and it was all captured through zoning, it's very likely that we would have very limited authority on it. If it was illuminating the parking lot, then you would have authority likely to consider that. But we're not ever required to guess. Applicants have to go through a process.
Okay. And one of the reasons I asked that is as we move forward, trying to find a conclusion to this and for the permit, because of the lighting, one of the things that was agreed upon was the hours of operation being dawn to dusk. And so without the lighting, I just. Because they didn't propose any lighting for the parking lot.
Right. So again, these are binding permit conditions, so they're bound by dawn to dusk. If the addition of lighting is giving them reason to want to expand those hours, fair,
Yep.
then you're going to have to come in and talk to us.
Okay.
And probably we would maybe want to consider things for security purposes and in and around parking, which is fair game, to consider does that lighting look like in the parking lot after dark? So.
Okay.
yeah.
I'm just trying to understand with the Dover, and that was kind of a general question I
No,
was going to have for you as well.
It's fair. Yeah.
It's making sure that some of the conditions that I saw within the decision that, are to be upheld. And so I'll kind of leave that one at that for now. I think you've answered my question on that. And then I guess most of my questions were just generally, I know the applicant had provided the applicant's attorney had provided a letter. And I just wondered, is this the right time, Mimi? Well, I'm asking Jay questions. Could you just kind of respond to that letter and your thoughts on the letter itself?
Yeah, look, there's no mystery to how the Dover Amendment is received by municipalities. You certainly give up a lot of authority for general permitting matters when a Dover Amendment use is present, but you don't give it all up. So the applicant came to us and there were assertions at the time that there was Dover protections, and I opined that there were Dover protections. But you still, again, as I just mentioned, you go through the process. And the board imposed a bunch of conditions. If the applicant felt that the board went too far vis-a-vis the Dover Amendment, the applicant was free at the time to appeal that. And that would have been the time to challenge it. You can't later try and unwind that existing things because you can't, I won't bore you with the case law. You can't seek a declaratory judgment saying that those conditions are wrong when you had a right to appeal them in the first instance, which they didn't avail themselves of, because I think everyone felt there was probably a good negotiation in terms of the conditions. And it still seems like a pretty fair set of conditions to me. So I am respectful of the applicant's assertion of Dover Amendment protections. And to the extent the applicant submits an application to change anything about this project and wants to view that through the lens of the Dover Amendment, that is fair game. That is free. And we would evaluate those changes if and when they were presented in a new application. However, it's not self-proving. You have to go through the process. And as I did previously, I would again do the same and say, this is out of the bounds. You can't regulate this. And this is something you can regulate. And we would do that on a case-by-case basis. But lawyers can't, and I'm no disrespect to other lawyers, we can't just do things by fiat and say that, well, this shouldn't apply, because you do have to go through the process. And again, I'm respectful. It appears that the applicant has done a tremendous job over there. It's obviously a great municipal asset. We're all appreciative of that. Well, we have to just go through the process and deal with that. In terms of the Dover Amendment, what you have before you is potentially the application of a different zoning bylaw altogether in and around temporary occupancy. That really has nothing to do with the Dover Amendment at all. So there are conditions remaining which relate to the general parking type conditions that you have, and they, I think, would like relief from some of that. And I think that that's the discussion you all should be having. What practically is a way to move forward rather than listening to two attorneys bloviate about the Dover Amendment, which is kind of a never-ending dispute out there.
Awesome. Thank you. You actually answered another question I had. So I about the process. So thank you. That's it for me, Mimi.
Mr. Belknap?
No additional comments from me. Thanks.
So Jay, the section of our code 174, 10J, which requires compliance, that stands. There's no workaround for that other than
Well,
to follow the.
Someone may want to put that exact code provision in front of me.
Oh.
So is that the,
That's the compliance. The issuance of an occupancy permit will not be given prior to the satisfactory completion of all elements and conditions of the approved site plan.
right, well,
Temporary occupancy permit may be issued after satisfactory completion of all items essential to public health and safety and sufficient bonding acceptable to the planning board provided to the town to cover all outstanding items.
right, well, again, you can't just view that in a vacuum. I view that as relating to the unfinished work, which I have always viewed the conditions that were imposed by the planning board, because we worked pretty hard on it, as relating to acceptable areas of regulation under the Dover Amendment. But even if there could be an argument that they may have exceeded the Dover Amendment, they are existing permit conditions and will continue to exist irrespective of the Dover Amendment until there is an application to relieve the applicant from them over, based on Dover Amendment or other grounds, which would probably take a lot longer ultimately than actually just working through the process.
Yeah, so to relieve those conditions, you would have to go through the modification process, not just file for a modification. You'd have to go through and. to
Yeah,
the approval.
there's whatever you want to call it, the only way to amend a permit is to actually file an application for an amendment, or it essentially takes on the same cast as a new permit. So some of the procedural, obviously, you can shortcut some of the procedural niceties because the application would only relate to what they want to change. So in terms of plan detail and everything else, you might be able to give some shortcuts there, but you still have to go through the same process, have the same meeting or hearings that are required under your bylaw, or be heard, issue a decision by the deadlines, all the other good stuff. Yeah.
Okay, does someone want to speak for their proponent? So I don't know what that is.
The presentation?
Oh, I haven't seen it. Did that come in? So is that in regard to site plan compliance, and that's what's on the agenda?
I would have thought that the majority of the board would have liked to see.
Okay. Is the board okay with that, even though it just came in? Yeah, okay.
Colleen, could you share the presentation from the Dropbox?
Yep. Michael, come up to the mic, please. Nope, we're all set now.
We're all on.
We seem
For
to
now.
have resolved our computer.
So you need to introduce yourself.
I'm Michael Weisson. I live at 189 Cordoville Road, and I'm the president and CEO of the Southborough Historical Society.
It's coming up. Okay, it's coming.
Coming up, this will take all of 2 minutes, so it'll be very quick.
Technology.
The technology part will take longer than 2 minutes.
She's putting it out, right? That's what will come up. You don't have to. It just takes a second to
Yeah, I
load because
think
it's
so.
15 megabytes too. It's large. I know. I might
In my world, that's tiny.
have.
Are you bringing that up, Colleen?
I am. I'm just
Okay.
looking for it. I got too many things.
Okay, just wanted to make sure you heard us.
Let's do sh- Do you guys see it?
There we are. Um, This is the exterior of the building. I won't bore you with all the shots of this from previous iterations because I'm sure you've all been watching it through the 4 years this has taken. And close to now $3 million, $1.5 million over its original budget. This has been an extraordinary work to salvage one of our most historic buildings that had every possible problem wrong with it. It was sold by the town in completely decrepit condition. All the sills were rotted, the roof was gone, the floors had termites, asbestos in the structure. I mean, you name it. However, while I was chair of the Historical Commission and as a member of the Historical Society, we certainly valued the salvage of this building, as did John Della Pascoli, who acquired it from the town, and then we subsequently acquired it. The next slide, please, is the interior of the Long Gallery, which is set for its opening exhibition. This was rat warren of office space previously and decayed bathrooms. It's now all been opened up and welcomed almost 500 people on the snap opening on the 9th, the sneak preview. This is another view. Next slide, please. This is another view down the Long Gallery. One of our residents just donated this fabulous baby grand piano, which was actually supposed to be on the 2nd floor, but did not fit in the elevator, which is another point, because this is the first time this building has been ADA accessible in its 120-year history. This was a huge quest on our part. The first company defaulted on its contract. We are 4 years. We finally had our first ride in the elevator just last week. The ramp outside also is another part of this. That was a $30,000 investment on our part to actually make this building ADA compliant. Next, please. This is a rather dark shot of the map room set as an entertainment space. It is, however, also a classroom. Every map you see is something to do with the history of Southborough, starting with an early 1720s view all the way through to the 1960s. It goes in chronological order, bing, 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 around the room. Next. There we go. This is just a fun thing. It's not cocaine, it's cocoa-ane, which was a hair preparation made out of cocoa, but it's very famous part of Burnett's lore. We have a huge collection of Burnett memorabilia. This is on the front staircase, which you'll see in a minute. Next, please. This is the upstairs library. This is also a classroom space. This was originally a closet. As you can see, it's been entirely renovated and restored to something far grander than it ever was originally as a closet. Next, please. This is the grand staircase. I will honestly tell you that if we had to do this again, we would demolish the whole building, save the staircase, and build it anew. No, it would have been far cheaper. It would have been $1 million less. And had we known what we knew now, that's probably what would have happened. We would have saved the historical features of this and just recreated them using period materials. So this whole building was essentially rebuilt around this staircase. And we have pictures of the workers scraping the asbestos glue off the stairs that the town had applied these horrible not pavers, what am I trying to say? Tiles onto the staircase. And so every part of this was disassembled and put back together again. Those are the original stairs, and they've never looked better. Next. That's the same view again. I don't know why that's there. Next, this is the assembly room. This is the grand space of this building. This was created by the veterans, the Grand Army of the Republic in 1911. The Grand Army of the Republic was the veterans organization for the Civil War, which is entirely remarkable, given the fact that in 1911, there were enough Civil War veterans to want to try to build a hall for themselves. But they were doing this as a community service. And so it's unclear what the downstairs spaces were originally, but the upstairs space was always a venue for meetings, weddings, private use functions, Boy Scout productions, town plays. The entire community rallied in this space until the 1970s, 80s, when it fell out of compliance. It couldn't be accessed via handicapped, and so it became essentially town storage. The next slide, we can just skip over. It's all about yeah, keep going. That's actually the regulations on the guidance. We don't need to talk about that now. This is our front mat, and this sort of celebrates our experience. I'm trying to get Jim Haggerty, our famous beekeeper town clerk, to come teach a class on beekeeping. He is so far resisting, but he will come to our hive eventually. Next, we can skip over the next one, and there should be a view of the parking lot at the end. Oop, keep going, keep going. Nope, that's it. Okay, well, there was, and I don't know, this is not the right deck, but there was a view of the parking lot which showed that we had in fact installed all of the elements that we had claimed. That it was an aggregate surface, it was of the size and dimensions, there was a handicap ramp there. They are just not in the configuration that they were originally planned due to all sorts of site constraints, including budget, drainage, and 1,000 other kind of things. So as you probably all know, we do intend to file for a modification of the permit. We are waiting, I believe, Kerna, you got the note from Mark Elbag that he has been engaged. Girl, where's your email? I mean, seriously.
I checked it as of,
I sent it, he said, he was CC'd on Friday.
yeah.
Anyway, so he has sent an engagement letter. Yeah, he has sent an engagement letter. He is in fact, he would have been here this evening, but unfortunately has another hearing to attend. He has been engaged to do the as-built, and as part of that the as-built will be filed as the basis for the modification. So that's all I have to present to you. Other than the fact that, I think we've gone above and beyond here. We have done everything we possibly can to conform and do better than we had originally projected. We have a facility that the building commissioner has said is ready to be occupied. The work remaining outside is some shrubbery, as far as we know. And as a landscape professional of 40 years, I can assure you that the value of that shrubbery is less than $1,000. So I don't think there's much in the exterior to be bonded. I disagree with town council respectfully about his interpretation of 17410J. I do think this is a Dover amended thing, but if we can work this out amicably and move on, we need to open this facility. It has been 4 years. It is $1 million over budget. We just received a letter from a 9-year-old boy who wants to come, is fascinated with Southborough history, and was waiting to come and see this facility. When the mother asks, is this going to open? We'd like to open it immediately, and we hope that you will facilitate that in every way possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Houlihan.
Thank you for presenting. Appreciate the internal view. That has nothing to do with planning board. Our purview is not the inside of the building. While it's beautiful, we still had the domain on the outside. From my perspective, I've just seen nothing that shows where you are from the site plan that we approved. So I think my only perspective would be, I would love to have you get your certificate of occupancy. I just need to know where you are. I was not able to make just let me continue, please. I was not able to make the site visit. And so I do think it would be helpful for me to hear from Ms. Luttrell, you were there, Ms. Bracchio, and Karina, relative to the site plan conditions. I think we as a planning board would love to help you. I'm not trying to stop the Historic Society from opening. I just want to make sure, unfortunately, we're always challenged. We provide site plans, and it's very hard for people to comply with those site plans or to proceed with as-builts. We're just asking to see what has been done. I've seen nothing, zero. I've seen the internal. I've seen nothing outside except for what I see when I drive by. Since my purview is the outside, I need to understand what's been done on the outside, which was approved in 2023. You had the opportunity to negotiate and discuss. I was there on that meeting, the several meetings. We talked about it. It was a good negotiation. We all agreed. We agreed to what we wanted to do. And I thought we all came across as like compatico, like we're all working together after that meeting, and you agreed. And you were there the whole time, Michael. Let me please finish. So from what I understand, there was no appeal filed. We are here almost 2.5 years later. And we are trying to figure out how do we get this to happen. So I would defer to Ms. Luttrell, Ms. Bracchio, and Ms. Quinn to just give me an update. What do we have in front of us to review? Because that's the only thing I can actually comment on. I have nothing in front of me.
Do you want me to go through that now?
Yes, please.
So the proponent has been asked first for as-built, and we couldn't get that, and then just asked for a stamped letter from their engineer, just saying what's been completed, what's outstanding, and what changes have been made, but we haven't seen anything. From the site walk, what I observed was there's a granite berm along the northern edge of the parking lot that's not there. The post and chain to delineate each parking space was not there.
Here's the picture.
So I was there on,
You were there when it was covered with snow.
okay.
Here is a picture taken today.
Excuse me, I didn't interrupt you.
Yeah, it's true. May I email
You
this
may,
to Rena?
let me finish, and then you can speak. Signage for the 12 parking spaces per the parking easement conveyed to the town per the deed. Those weren't shown. It was unclear to me because each parking space hasn't been delineated. I don't know how many spaces that were there. There was supposed to be an asphalt apron in the northeast corner of the parking lot. I didn't see that. The accessible parking was missing signage, striping I didn't see a walkway to the ramp. And then the landscape hedge. And then there were some changes. On the north side of the building, it was supposed to be lawn, and it's now paved. There are wooden posts along the east side of the parking lot that I guess our lights are going to go there at some time. The parking surface is recycled asphalt instead of the granite. So the town per code requires bituminous concrete, and we waived that at the applicant's request for gravel, and but it's not gravel or bituminous concrete. So there was so the ADA ramp was supposed to be on the east side of the building. Now it's on the north side, and it's a metal ramp instead of concrete. And there were plans when that was changed that came from the building department that showed 23 parking spaces instead of 28. So I'm not sure whether the parking spaces still are in compliance.
Maybe the catch basin too.
In the catch basin.
We were trying to find that catch basin in the corner. Is it not paved over, is it? Yeah. Well, drainage is under planning too. Just so you know.
So that's what I
It was in the
observed.
parking lot. So, let me get this to Colleen. Colleen, can you, share that photo? Did you send it to Colleen too? No,
Is it coming in email?
I'll forward it to you. Hold on.
So I guess, I mean, what I'm hearing is that there's a list of what we've asked for in a set of conditions that was agreed to. There was no appeal. There are things that are outstanding. there's got to be a compromise. I think we tried to do that 2 years ago. You're asking for an occupancy, trying to understand what steps are being taken or not to achieve the things that we find that aren't within the site plan. And if you're suggesting that you're not going to do any of them, I think we as the planning board need to understand, what are you proposing? Are you going to completely, is this meeting like not even valid because you're putting in a whole request for a site plan modification that's going to basically try to swipe all of that? I think just having the conversation about what's happening, whether or not it's, you know, some of the things that are there, I think were a vision when you were probably not $1 million over budget, when the building was not in the shackles that it was when you acquired it. I think none of us want you to spend more money to do things. We just want to make it so it is in accordance to what we can control from a planning board perspective within the Dover Amendment. We've always worked within the FACE schools with all the education facilities in town. Parking and lighting has always been something that we've talked about, the ADA compliance. So I think what I'm hearing is the drainage and the parking are probably some of the critical things. And I guess what I would like to understand, and then you can move down the line, is what is the intent of the Historical Society? And, you know, how do we proceed? We want to be a good partner. We don't want to impede, but we also feel like we've gained a little respect here because we did put this negotiation together. We put a contract together, and we're just asking for you to come forward and share what you've done, and we haven't seen anything.
Eric Russell, Harrington Heap. I'm an attorney for the Historical Society. I presented here via Zoom on the major site plan application. And I think we were very clear then. We did not agree that all of the conditions were within the scope of the Dover Amendment. I think we made that very clear, and that the society tolerated them only because the board insisted on them, and they did not want to spend the money to go to court. Now, I'm not going to fight with anybody tonight about enforceability or anything like that. We just want a path forward to get this open as soon as possible. It's unfortunate the engineer could not be here tonight to talk about conditions on the ground. He is working on as-built plans. They do plan on filing a request for a modification. And in the meantime, we would like a certificate, a temporary certificate of occupancy, if nothing else. Given what is outstanding is basically the landscaping, which is very minor. We think a bond is not reasonable.
Just read a list.
Drainage.
And we're going to be asking for modifications of those things. Not of the drainage, but the other things. The drainage, I believe that's going to be, dealt with by the Conservation Commission. One of the requirements, even if something is under your purview, your regulation of it still has to be reasonable. Duplicative regulations that run up the costs unnecessarily on a small nonprofit are not reasonable.
Unfortunately, the drainage has to be vetted by our town's peer reviewer. Okay? So that's why we've been asking for the as-built, so that the peer reviewer can review the information to see if it was actually built. So right now, we don't know if this drainage was actually built as it was designed. It may be, it could be, likely it is, but for the record, it has to be shown that it is. Just like every other applicant, drainage is under the purview of the planning board as well. If you read chapter 174-10.
I'm very familiar with that.
One of the requirements is the stormwater management report and the drainage facility. So how do we know the drainage is installed properly?
Like I said, as-built plans will be provided.
Okay.
The fact that it's in your bylaw does not make it a reasonable Dover Amendment regulation. You want to
Sure is.
Good evening. Is this on?
It is.
Okay. I'm John Deli Priscoli. I live at 84 Main Street. For those of you that may know, that's the Burnett House. And it's an historical structure here in town that I painstakingly restored over 7 years. And you all know the saga behind that, I'm sure. I donated this building after I purchased it to the Historical Society. I did get a small reimbursement for the work I had done on it. I was in front of you as a private citizen, if you remember, to put an art gallery and that type of thing in there. But when I saw that the Historical Society needed the space, I thought this was a perfect fit, and that was why that happened. I was asked to join the Historical Society. I'm a history buff, and I enjoy historical structures, and you can see my work at the Burnett House and other places. I'm also on the trustee at the Wayside Inn for the same purpose over in Sudbury. I have 45 years in experience in development. I have my own business since 1980. Can't believe it's that long ago, but it is. In any case, I've tried to help wherever I can on here. But it's important for this board and for the public to know that the town that owned this building were very poor stewards of this property, extremely poor. They let the hydraulic pressure underneath the perched water table seep into the basement, causing a degradation of a stone foundation. They allowed the building to be, very haphazardly, incrementally, very poorly remodeled over the years with just were horrible stewards of this property. And by all accounts, the property really should have been torn down, but I'm one that likes to preserve history. Society obviously is in the business of preserving history. And when you do historical renovations, as I did at the Burnett House, you can't look at the costs. You have to look at what you're trying to get to, because the costs are much more than replacing it with something new. And that's almost true across the board in all types of antique restorations. On this particular one, we were faced with, first of all, the perched water table. We were faced with, all the things that Michael mentioned. I'm not going to reiterate in the essence of time. And we went in there and did the work. That building has been structurally and massively remodeled, with steel reinforcement and everything else. But in regards, I know your only big concern here is the exterior, so I'm going to focus on that in the essence of time. So when we approached and did the site work, that site had no drainage at all. It sheet flowed completely into what is now the CSX Railroad, which is over there. And for those of you that are really familiar with the area, you'll see that the CSX Railroad has, in your drainage and in your wetlands over there, it basically has a railroad infrastructure marinating in your surface water with creosote railroad ties and everything else. I'm also in the railroad business, so I know a lot about it. But all that water leaves there and goes into the reservoir across the way there. Ultimately, that's what happened with it when the town owned it, and that's what happens with the CSX property. Now, when that property was built, there is a catchment area there that is giving the water a chance to settle out, and there is drainage there. And it is much more advanced drainage system than there was there previously. So there is drainage, and I think the engineer will address that in a follow-up. So there is drainage. As far as the material that was used in the parking lot, there is gravel there, and that is, I processed the gravel that's in there. It's a combination of gravel and recycled asphalt, pulverized and run through a crusher and a screener, which I provided at no cost to the society, and trucked it in there and everything and spread it. And that's a great way because you're getting 100% pervious there. So you're not only you're getting surface runoff there into the drainage that was provided that we built, but you're also getting ground recharge in there. So I don't think there's any issues with the drainage. I'm not a civil engineer, but I've been in this business a long time, and the drainage is vastly superior to what was there. As far as the changing of the ramps and things like that, those are typical site changes that have to be addressed and done. I think when you look at what's there now, it's so vastly superior to what was there prior. And our goal here is to, obviously work with the town. But I think that's a two-way street. And I really think that, I understand you want to treat everybody equally. But when it comes to something, a cultural base like this, a cultural institution such as the society, I think one has to look at it a little bit more carefully in the sense of how do we, collectively work in a positive manner to get this thing over the finish line? It's not the same as a for-profit. It's not the same as as somebody who's building a 7-Eleven or something, or a gas station. It's something for your children, your family, your parents, our friends, to enjoy cultural resource this town desperately needs. When I ran over last winter, I did an event at the Burnett House and had an orchestra from Worcester there doing Christmas carols and things of that nature. I mean, the town was so thrilled that there was a cultural something. The town is desperate for culture. Here we have culture. And I really think it's in the board's best interest, in our interest, to find a path forward here that's of the least amount of pain being inflicted, both financially and everything else. I mean, the town is so vastly superior. The product that's there now versus what was there when the town owned it. I think there should be some quarter granted for that alone. I mean, the town really is a horrible landlord. And here it is, you have somebody that comes along and I'll tell you, and I don't want to embarrass Michael here, but I will tell you, the town is very lucky to have this person here that's preserving all this and worked tirelessly on preserving these archives. I mean, the amount of work he's done over there, I can't even count the hours. I mean, I helped out where I could, but I have a big business to run and I couldn't do anywhere near the amount of work there. But I really think we should look at this through a little different lens than perhaps your typical commercial properties that you may be addressing. And I would hope you do that. And I think, I don't like animosity. I don't like back and forth. I just want to see it go forward. And I want to see everybody here be proud and be able to walk through the front door there and hold their head up high, same with us. I want it to be a real cultural resource. That's why I'm involved in it. And that's what I think is really good for the town. I think it's good for young people to be involved. So I don't think there's the amount of, you have the stack of issues that you mentioned, Madam Chair. Those issues really don't amount to a hell of a lot, because when you really look at what's on the ground and what's there, it's really okay what's there. Yes, there's some changes. We're going to document those changes. We're going to give you the technical backup for those changes. That I can assure you. I don't have them tonight, but we have the engineering re-engaged to do it. And those can come through the process that Mr. Talman had mentioned, through an amendment or whatever you think is appropriate. But I think, showing some good faith here, I think we should agree to bring those changes forward in the proper format, the engineering, and I think the board should be willing to back us up on a temporary occupancy permit. It still gives you a further bite out of the apple once the changes come forward and for discussion. You're not signing off completely, but you're giving Michael a chance and the society a chance to move forward, and you're giving yourselves a chance to relook at this in a civil and matter. I just think what's been done here is such a wonderful thing for the town, and I think it should be looked at through that lens. I really do. I think it's important that we do that as a community. So that's all I'm trying to say. I'd like to set the tenor like that. I don't like negativity. I want it to be a positive thing. But I think one way to bridge that, let him have his temporary, support that, with the understanding that they're going to come in with some changes and some clarifications, and have a meeting of the minds going forward. It's not that's what I think should be approached. But I did the site work, most of it, and I will tell you that it's vastly superior to what was there. Is it 100% of the plan? No, because it couldn't be. And that's not uncommon, that you deal with site conditions and things that require changes. But that's where we are now. And I think you're asking, Marnie, you were asking for a path forward. I just think that's the path forward that would keep things moving for everybody's benefit. It doesn't cut you out of the picture, and it lets him move forward. That is kind of a bridge. And then we get to that point, and hopefully through the next hearing, we're able to address all the issues and make sure that everybody's on, and then we'll wrap it from there. That's basically how I see it. But I just wanted you to know I did the work there, and that's what's there.
Okay, thank you. Are you all set, Marnie?
Just a comment. Thank you for that. I agree. It's a community, it's a culture, it's a beautiful facility. This is the first time I've even heard any feedback on what's happened on that site. So also be respectful of my elected position. The town has asked me to help keep properties in better shape and not be in this shithole. Sorry. In the way, I apologize for that, in the way that it was originally found.
That's.
And that's our job, and that's what on-site as-builds do. That allows us to mediate that, and I feel like my hands have been tied because I don't have any information.
I will.
So thank you for the information. Let's let everyone else go.
Can I
and-
just respond to one thing real quick while this is fresh? I just want you to know that, as you said, the property was in deplorable condition. And, sorry.
You took a
And
short.
that's fine, but I will tell you that I don't think anybody in the public, okay, would for one moment say this board hasn't done its job when they look at what's there versus what was there versus what's there now. So I think you've done a good job at it. I think there's been a communication breakdown. We're here to repair that. We're here to be partners, not adversaries. That's the way I like to approach things, because that's the short way to the goal line, you know? But I think that nobody in their right mind in this public that's watching this TV show here tonight would ever say that you haven't done your job when you look at what's there and that you had input on that versus what was there. So anyway.
Mr. Maria.
No, turn me off. We're all
Oh, we're normal
We're
now.
all covered. Okay. Thank you for joining us tonight. I just want to say what a tremendous job the society's done. I've attended both the open house at the beginning of, was it December, and also the site walk. So I've also driven by and I've spoken to Michael Weishan, as well as the conservation agent. So I just want to give you my perspective because I think that it's time to get to the finish line on this. I have 5 things on my list. 3 of them I don't think we can do anything about tonight. One was mentioned about the signs. This obviously the signs are not going to be put up right now, and shrubs as also the ramp. There is already a ramp. I know that I think the plan called for a concrete ramp, but I would say due to the weather conditions right now, signs, shrubs, and ramps are not going to be put up. So I'd be willing to just say, let's just put those to the side for now. I think they might come back into the picture, but I'd like to focus more on the parking lot and lighting. So on the parking lot, I did speak to the conservation agent, and I was able to find a letter dated back in April, I think, 2023. And essentially, that's when the society was going to the Conservation Commission to ask for gravel in place of asphalt. But what the letter mentions is that the commission had already approved asphalt. So I asked the conservation agent, does that mean asphalt is approved? And she said, yes, it is approved. However, of course, she would need to know the nature of the change. But she said, because it's already approved, there was a discussion back in April 2023, and, her opinion, not having spoken to the rest of the commission, is to say, I don't know if any of the commissioners would, disagree with the asphalt because, we originally approved it. So I'm willing to say that I think we have to let that go. I want to know also, what are the calculations and the drainage and the impact. I don't exactly know the material, but the material sounds like kind of a hybrid between the asphalt and the gravel. And I think that we have to be reasonable. I'll let you know from just standing and walking into your building. I was amazed that it was there because I was fearing, walking on a bunch of rocks, to be honest. And I happened to be there on 2 days that it was snowing and icy. Actually, the opening was an icy day. And I appreciated the asphalt, and I appreciated the ramp, and I appreciated everything that was done on that property. I did want to ask about the lighting because at the site visit, I saw the lighting in the back of the parking lot. I think it's a good idea to put that lighting up. And I know Mr. Weishan mentioned that you have a grant or something that you may have applied for. The planning board conditions say dawn to dusk, but the deed allows after 5 p.m. So there's this kind of the weird juxtaposition of those two things that I think don't make a lot of sense. I think that the lighting that's positioned in the back of the parking lot with those poles would be a good addition to the parking lot. I think it's needed for safety. And we have allowed other Dover projects to have lighting, either motion or 24/7, where there's, for example, children over at the private schools and stuff like that. So I think, I would look forward to seeing that plan. I know that that is, future. So in my opinion, I think that we should be doing everything that we can to get to a temp CO. I think the work that has been done to date is tremendous. I don't find a reason to prevent the temp CO, and I hope that we can continue in a nice working relationship to get to the, occupancy permit. In my opinion, a bond is needed. I would be prepared to say that I would go for a bond of 0. Thank you.
Ms. Brush.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for the pictures. That was beautiful. So first off, I think I just want to say that I don't think anybody on this board is asking for something that hasn't been asked for from other nonprofits in town. St. Mark's, Fay, I know they may have a bigger budget than others, but the same requirements were made. If they wanted something in advance, a bond was provided. Now, what that amount is, I can't tell you. I don't know. That's outside of my purview. So I just wanted to make that point that I understand the smaller nature, as you mentioned, of the society, and I appreciate that. This isn't we've required of our commercial applicants as well. We've required bonds of them as well. To get their temporary occupancy permits. So that being said, the things that concern me the most, and I'm not saying we can't get to where we need to get for this to happen, but I think for me and why I had asked town council was I went back, I pulled the minutes from the prior meetings from July 10th in 2023, and the exterior lighting for me is a problem. That's why the dusk to dawn was added because, and it was agreed to that regarding the lighting plan, Mr. Weishan stated he agreed to the hour restriction until a lighting plan can be finalized. I worry safety-wise, and I would think you would be concerned, some of the classes and things you have planned are getting out at 9 o'clock at night, and there's no lighting. So the lighting piece for me is a safety issue more than anything else. So that's for me why the hours dusk to dawn were important when this board instituted them. It protected the taxpayers of the town and it protected you as well. So that's one of my concerns. The landscaping, kind of as Barney said, if you're going to come back and ask to rescind all these conditions, and it's actually a question I have for you, town council, if I may. So what happens if the applicant comes back to do a modification on the site plan and wants all of the conditions rescinded? And what if the planning board votes no? Then where are we back to where we are tonight?
No, well, it depends. So the applicant would have a right to appeal that decision.
Okay.
They've got 20 days to appeal it and go to court, and we could
Yeah.
then debate over a period of months or years as to whether or not the conditions that we decided not to waive are proper under a Dover protected project.
Okay, so, I mean, hopefully that's what not any of us want, that to come back into that, for that to happen. So I'm certainly open to discussions on how we can get to where you need to get. But like I said, that the safety issue for me on the lighting is, I'm going to probably stick to my guns on this one. I think it benefits you and it benefits your people that may come to your classes to go out into a dark parking lot, especially in winter time, which was why this was set. If it was summer, it'd be different. You could go till 9 o'clock at night, Michael. And I didn't know that. This is, you said it at some point. All right, well, that wasn't what you said at the site visit. Just to be clear, when I asked about it, you said you didn't have to, and that's why I didn't say anything else after that. I asked about the lighting.
No, there was a misunderstanding then. No, we
Okay.
have the lights when they will be put up. I mean, it's going to look like a Christmas tree lot in the sense of, that it's temporary lighting, but it will be lit. For the first time, I will point out, in its 120-year history, including all of its town occupancy for a century.
I don't disagree with you, Michael. I'm just, again,
So I know we're cognizant of this. The building is also lit, downlit. The ramp will have lighting. I mean, obviously, we don't want to have someone fall down and be sued.
absolutely.
So, as the director of this, I'm aware. So there will be lighting before anyone is in that building in the evening.
And just to bring it back real quick to what we're talking about right now, I think, the lighting discussion can come up in the context of a modification. But I don't see that as being something that relates to the TCO or the bonding at this point.
It's a
You?
safety issue for one thing, and I would think that our building commissioner would be concerned as well, but it is a condition of the site plan. It's number 4 and 5 within the conditions. So,
Yes, but it's an operational thing. How do you bond it?
again, that's a discussion we haven't had on what we would think maybe or maybe unacceptable. Again, this is my chance to offer how I think we can get to where we need to get. I'm sharing my concerns. I think Michael has expressed an opinion that, that it's taking place. So I'm not being combative or anything else. I'm sharing legitimate concerns that I have as a sitting member on this board.
And I'm
So-
just asking a question. I'm acknowledging this is an appropriate discussion, especially in the context of a modification being brought here. I'm just asking, how does that relate to the TCO?
So I would be concerned about the TCO.
If they comply with that condition as a part of getting the TCO, you want to impose more? Is that?
No, that's
you're
not what I
suggesting?
said.
Okay,
That's not what I said at all.
okay.
No, I'm just bringing up that when the site plan was done, there was big discussion and, Ms. Houlihan is our lighting expert here. And there was concern and any exterior lighting that was going to come in was supposed to have a modification done. Am I misspeaking? Nope. Okay. So to put in lights, that's great, but a modification has to be done for those lights. We're talking about what has to be done, what potentially is done in the future.
Yeah.
So,
And that's a public hearing for your information,
We're aware.
the modification. So if Michael's saying they're going in next week, that's a little concerning. The lights are important, but they have to be permanent.
Yeah.
Through a modification, and that,
Well, I-
public hearing takes like.
So excuse me, through the chair, please. The board gets to speak.
Okay. I was
We've
just
heard from
responding.
you. Are you all set, Ms. Braccio?
yeah, I mean, I think there's other things that we talked about. I think the signage for the handicapped is important. And I think hosting any events, even under a temporary CO, you would want to have those signs delineated. And again, I would imagine the building inspector would want to have that as well. I think the post and chain fencing that was agreed upon, that was talked about, I mean, all of those things, we could certainly have a discussion on. I don't think for me that would necessarily hinder something. So again, I'm interested to see what my other board members say and have to say. But again, I want to work together to find a way to do this, but there are certain things I think have to be met. So I will just stop at that.
Mr. Billington?
Thank you. I have the benefit or drawback of not being as close to this as my other fellow board members have, so I don't have as much storied history. But what I'm kind of interpreting is that a site plan was brought forth, it was reviewed. Some stipulations were placed on it. Either you agreed to it or chose not to appeal them for various reasons. Time has passed, costs have increased, much work has been done. And now you're looking to get a temporary CO to execute on the vision that is the Historical Society. Great. I think you said it earlier that it seems like there's been a bit of a communication breakdown. I would echo that. It also seems like has been a bit of an execution breakdown, because as changes are made, yes, we're going to show as-built, but it sounds like some things were done without the knowledge of the board of them happening. Great that your engineer is being re-engaged. I think we look forward to seeing those. But beyond that, I'm a bit stuck as to whether we say yay or nay for what needs to happen for a temporary CO. I will say anything that's safety related, lighting, things like that, absolutely. Beyond that, I'm probably going to defer to the expertise of the rest of my board members. So thanks for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you. I have concerns because the open house was posted and advertised with full well knowing you didn't have an occupancy permit. And now there are all these classes that are being advertised and you still don't have an occupancy permit. So it doesn't seem like you're working with this board in good faith. And we were told that, you know, the planning board has no jurisdiction, you're going to ignore the site plan. That's not working in good faith. I don't think that you can open without ADA compliant spots. Nothing was marked and nothing was striped when I was there. I don't know if the walkway to the ramp is there, but the space has changed. I was told that they were on the north side of the building in front of the ramp, but the plans from the ramp company shows them along Central Street with the ramp going. So can you open without ADA compliant spots?
I defer to the building commissioner as to whether or not that would be allowable under the code.
Excuse me, through the chair.
The building commissioner has stated that he is willing to open this building. He has stated that. So there's really no question. Unfortunately, he was not able to be here this evening. We had asked him and he said he was going to be here, but you know, so I don't know what else to tell you, which is the basis of our optimism about opening.
Mr. Robideau, do you care to answer that question, whether the building can open without ADA compliant spots?
Yes, hello, everyone. Yeah, Mike's got a couple of minor things to do. We have ADA accessible parking and an ADA accessible ramp. He just doesn't have the sign up yet. And he's working on getting that done. So again, he wouldn't get a full CO, but for a temporary CO, he can put the sign up against the building. I mean, everything else is there.
Just to follow up, Madam Chair, through you, if I could, is that the signs are there. We'd have to, the weather hasn't cooperated, the frost in the ground. But I think right now with the thaw that we've had, we can get those up.
Sure.
Mr. Robideau, could you please comment on lighting? So the site plan conditions are dusk to dawn, obviously. I mean, dawn to dusk. It's a rough day for me, apparently. I'm sorry. Dusk being lately what, like 5 o'clock? Oh, dusk, thank you. So dawn is like 5 o'clock. So when sun sets, making it pretty dark without other exterior lighting. From your perspective, can the facility open? Right now, we don't have a light plan in front of us. Mr. Weishan has said that lighting is going in. We don't have any indication of that or not, but can a building be given a temporary occupancy without any lighting?
Well, sure. You know, again, there's certain lighting requirements in the building code, and that has to do basically with egress. It's exit access, exit and exit discharge. But beyond that, there are certain requirements and you know, other occupancies, but not for a business. That would be under your purview. The exterior lighting would be completely under your purview.
Thank you.
So I think that there's enough left that there should be some bond in order to ensure that these things will be done. We haven't really seen any good faith cooperation, so I think we need to ensure that these things will be completed. And I can't guess that a bond would have to have our engineer,
Town consultant?
yeah, the town consultant come up with a bond estimate.
So can I just outline one thing? What usually happens with a site plan approval? What usually happens with a site plan approval, once you're close to being finished with the construction, an as-built gets provided to the planning department, which we then forward to the town's engineering consultant for review. They do a site inspection to compare the approved site plan to what was built, noting any changes. Often changes are brought to us during construction, and when they're brought to us then, it's a very easy way to say if they're approved or not, because it's small things during construction, and it doesn't create this need to have a modification. So once the as-bills come to us, they go to the town engineer, and that requires a peer review fee, which I believe I gave Michael Wyshan a copy of that. I think it's $4,000 for an as-built review, okay? So that would have to happen. They go to the site, they look, they prepare a letter, they define what's different or not. They're also asked to do an initial bond review. An initial bond review is done by them because for all applicants, they use the Mass DOT standard cost rates. And then a contingency and an inflation rate, depending on what. So that gets established, and then that gets presented to the applicant so he can review them if he has any comments on what shouldn't be there, or he feels this is overkill or whatever, comments on that, and then it's negotiated to a fair bond amount. With if there was something not seen or something was done with. At the same time, the drainage is confirmed that it was installed, constructed to work on the site. They compare the surfaces, if they've changed, if they've expanded, if they've decreased, if there are less area of grass that's replaced with the recycled asphalt, things like that. And they determine whether that's a significant impact to the drainage or not. Hopefully it isn't. If it is, your engineer just shows that the basin as it is designed still works, which hopefully it does. Does it need to be bigger? Is the drain from underneath, from the cellar that's contributing to that, is that included in the initial design? All these things. Hopefully that works. And hopefully, like you said, John, the way it's built is what works, but we just have to have that codified for the record. I'm sure you built it in the way it's supposed to be, but for the record, we can't just let everybody say, well, we built it that way and that's the way. We have to verify it. That's just the standard process, like anything like that. So those are the things. We would need the as-built and then the fee to review those as-built, which I've given Michael already, the scope and fee for that. I did. I emailed you the niche.
Well, I think, to respond, if I may, Madam Chair, through you, I don't think, I think at this point, I think having a two-step process, allow Michael this temporary occupancy permit without a bond, let him get the things finished up, get back with the engineer, come in, get through the modification, verify everything that you're mentioning, have the peer review at that point on the next go around with the modifications. That's working with him. Making him do all this stuff before a temporary occupancy permit is just, we're just going in circles. And,
Michael,
I think that's not, I think based on where the building was and where it is now, he's earned that temporary occupancy permit. I think the town is being overly reaching a little bit deeper than they need to when they still have the ability before the permanent occupancy permit to really settle on the final arrangements, which is what the goal is to have everything done, not to have bonds or anything else. It's just to have the work done, right? So you still have another wave of inspections and wave of discussions, but not allowing him to run his business or the society to service the town and its residents with history and so forth, based on that, I think is a mistake. I don't think that's fair. I just don't, not considering how the town maintained this property, and nobody seemed to have a problem with it until somebody came along and wanted to improve it. So, you know, from where I sit, I think the right course of action would be to support a temporary occupancy permit, work with the society, and have the society assure you that before the permanent occupancy permit, and you could put a window on that temporary, obviously. Then-
We can't.
Well, Mr. Robino can, and we can agree to it. But my point is that put a window on that, that's fair, that both people can manage. Let some good weather get into the picture here. And let Mr. Elbag, who's the engineer, wrap up his situation so we can address what you mentioned, Karina. And that's the way to work together. And you have the ability, before he gets his temporary permit, I mean, you're still in control. I mean, you're not giving up anything. You're just letting somebody move forward. I mean, he's earned that with the amount of work that's been done here. I mean, anybody looks at that I'd like somebody rationally to tell me why he hasn't earned that. I don't see it.
And he did submit multiple requests to meet with this board through November and December. He has tried to come into
So
and he is.
let me clarify.
The agenda.
He wanted to come on the 1st. We did not have a meeting on the 1st. He was invited on the 8th and declined.
But Madam Chair, I don't think that, okay, there's been a lot of back and forth, and I'm not, you know, from where I sit, I don't think that gets us anywhere. Whether, you know, if there's some right on this side and some wrong on this side and vice versa, that doesn't solve anything. What solves the problem and moves the ship forward is give them support the temporary occupancy permit with some conditions and some timeframes, and let him get back with you. He has every intention. I know, because Elbag is through me. I know he's been engaged. I'm telling you right now. Okay, so give him a chance to catch his breath. Let him get his business off the ground. The town has, and I agree with you, Ms. Brascio, that you know, safety is paramount. That's with every business, and I don't think that's unwarranted. But what I'm saying is you got to be reasonable here. You know, the town is, okay. Well, I don't think any deal really works unless both people aren't 100% happy. All right. And you know what I'm saying? I mean, everybody's got to give and take a little here.
So
You're getting the ability, you're getting the ability to have another bite out of the apple here. Holding him up now, what does that do? It gets us into court. Is that what we want?
Well, so it complies with our zoning code, first of all. Second of all, you say give and take. So what is the give? How is the town protected?
Well, the TCO absolutely can be issued in accordance with your zoning bylaw. The give is, it is a TCO. They will have to come back, and they are going to be coming in for the modification. You're going to have multiple more opportunities to look at this.
Wouldn't it be simpler just to submit as-built?
That the town is protected?
Well, a TCO is just that. If you gave a limited window TCO and determined that whether it was a nominal bond or no bond, the leverage is the time. And so if a TCO was to April 1,
But can we determine that?
I think you can state that and give Mark guidance on this that says that without additional security, compliance is extended only until April 1st. I mean, Mark is on the Zoom. I think he would honor the duration of the TCO to get this stuff done.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Robideau?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, yes, I would absolutely honor whatever you guys decide tonight.
So if we decided tonight to issue a temporary C of O until April 1st, and then either the modification had worked its way through or the incomplete items had been resolved by April 1st.
Yeah, and before I issue a full CO, Mimi, I would also say that, I would want something from Karina that says that the planning board is satisfied and you're okay to issue a full CO.
But so just the ADA spots need to be marked, correct?
Yeah, so there's a little, I think the confusion is that, we had mentioned that it wasn't handicap accessible. It is an accessible place. It's just that he doesn't have the signage up, and it had to do with it was going to be, I think last week, and with the cold weather, I think he was having some issues.
That's what I had mentioned, Madam Chair, about
Yeah.
the frost. And I would just ask, before we get too far ahead, I would ask for May 1st, only because of the weather situation. We're in the middle of the winter here. April can be a very soggy month, April 1st. I mean, there could be snow. I think,
But maybe revisit it on April 1st and see where we are.
well, I would just think May 1st, and I think that's all we're at. It's just because of the weather. That's all I'm saying, not because of the magnitude of the work.
So John, I think the solution there, and I don't want to speak for the board, if they agreed to a TCO, but with a return date, so to speak, like come here and report to us on progress by no later than April 1, I think that's probably doable, where the applicant could advise as to where they stand with it, so we're not doing an 11th hour shuffle on May.
Right. I mean, I think that's reasonable. I just thought, Counselor, that, realistically, I think he could get to just about the goal line by May 1st.
I'm not suggesting
all I'm saying.
to the contrary. I just think like
But if
having a single date for everything, having the window is probably a little bit better. And I think what I'm hearing a little bit from the board is they want to be part of this ongoing process. So even if it was before April 1st, if there was reports coming back as to checking off the items that still need to be done. The as-bilt's pretty important, I think, for us to clear the decks of things. The other
And that's
stuff,
been engaged.
yeah.
So, I mean, progress is being made. I know it doesn't appear that, but it has been. Well, if that's the board's, as long as we could, in good faith, give you an update with the understanding that weather permitting, we just couldn't do some of these items.
So that was just me talking. There's the rest of the board.
I just
that
think May
needs to-
1st is more practical, from it, but I have no problem giving updates, every couple of months, in between. I mean, there's no issue there. I think starting a really solid line of communication would be a nice, fresh approach.
Ms. Houlihan.
So John, I'd like to hold you accountable to that, because I will say, Mr. Weishan, I feel like it's a contentious relationship at this point. I feel that you don't trust us. I don't know if we can truly believe that you're going to pull forward with this site. John, you've made some claims tonight. My request that as an accountable party being on the board to be able to provide that communication, the open lines of communication is really all we are asking for. We just need to know what's going on. Remember, this is the first time we've heard anything that's happened at that building or the outside. You have to understand where we are as an elected board. It's not enough information for us. This has been 4 years in the making. 23 is when you got the approval, and this is the first time we've heard about it. If you are agreeing, I would be fine with maybe waiving a bond, issuing a temporary occupancy, but putting actually a clock on a 30-day update every 30 days that we get an update on what's happening, whether there's nothing that's happened or whether there's something that's happened. You guys are in the know, just let us know. Vis-a-vis Karina or Mimi or any one of us that you feel confident in having those conversations with, so that we feel that we are getting the communication that we are due and it's respectful of our positions as planning board members. That's what my ask would be. And I would be okay with a May 1st, assuming we have a 30-day accountability. That would be my recommendation.
With Karina, I assume, you mean, with feeding Karina.
If you're comfortable with speaking with Karina, and Karina is a fabulous person to be our voice.
Yes, she is. She's a wonderful person.
Mr. Maria.
Well, I agree with Ms. Houlihan. I'm okay with that as well. I agree with the weather I'd mentioned, the signage, the shrubs, and anything having to do with the ramp. Well, as long as there's snow on the ground, it's kind of impossible. So I like the idea of putting up, if have the signage already, especially for the handicap spots, if they can just be leaned up against something. I think that's important. I was thinking 3 months. 3 months gets us to April 15th, but I like May 1st because the weather's a little more, you can maybe get a few of those extra things done. And I also would support a no bond.
Ms. Braccio.
Thank you. And thank you for the discussion tonight. I think this was good. What I am going to suggest, Michael, is I agree and I support what Ms. Houlihan said, but I would just suggest that whatever lighting you're thinking of putting, have a conversation with Marnie about it. You don't want to spend money and then have to change because it doesn't meet whatever requirements it may be. So just have a conversation with Marnie, and that will go a long way, making sure that, that requirement is met. Okay, so I would just suggest that, because again, I'm going to harp on my lighting thing again. I think it's a big deal. It's so dark at night now, even, coming out. So again, I'm fine with the 30-day reviews, having a May 1st end date on this. I support that as well. So thank you.
Mr. Bellinia.
Not much additional to add, other than that 30 days gives us roughly February 12, March 12, April 12. It's 3 updates. And then April 30th / May 1 would be, the hour of reckoning, so to speak. So I'm comfortable with 30-day updates. Just know that that's only going to be 3 opportunities for us to sort of converse and figure things out. So hopefully steady progress is made. And then the only other comment I had is I don't know the specifications or requirements behind temporary signage, but could you buy a 5-gallon bucket, pour some concrete in it, and put a post in it for a sign? Like, locations of temporary signage
ADA.
seems like it's like really easy to solve.
Yep.
The fact that we've even
No, I
mentioned
agree.
it 7 times is 6 times too many.
We have the signs.
What about contingent upon filing a modification for the changes that have been made? And if there's any increase in site lighting, it automatically requires a modification.
Yeah, I'm in agreement that a modification of site plan, it's your intention anyway. I think that's the planning of the lighting. You said it's your intention anyway. It should be part of the plan. So I would agree that's part of that. So I think a condition of a modification, submitted at some time, probably before May 1st, right?
Oh, yeah.
We would then probably have a public discussion on it at our planning board meeting on May 11th. But that would have to come in, 14 days prior to May 1st, right?
3.5 weeks.
Or 3.5 weeks prior to May 1st.
Madam Chair, through you, if I may, obviously, one of the updates that we're going to be giving you every 30 days is the progress on the modification and all these other submissions that you're looking for. And, I believe we'll be feeding Karina, these things as they get done. Our goal is to, immediately get the as-built moving and prepare the modification so we can get back on track here. And you giving us this little bit of freeboard here really helps us get to that. So that's a great, we're making some pretty tight commitments on this side, and you're making some tight commitment. Obviously you're being very fair on your side, in my opinion. So I think that's a good bridge to start rebuilding the relationship and to see if we can get to the goal line here in a proper way.
I think that's reasonable. And I did just confirm with Michael, the as-built right now, the estimate is 4 to 8 weeks on those. And, they need those for the modification. But so that's the anticipated timeline for getting that filed right now.
Okay. So is the rest of the board in agreement with the modification by May 1st?
Yes.
Okay.
So before you make a motion, right?
Before I make a motion, I'm going to ask Mr. Robideau if he's in agreement with.
And I just need clarification on what the contingencies are.
Yeah.
For sure. Okay.
So, Mr. Robideau, if we sign off on a temporary certificate of occupancy based on 30-day report ins to town planner on the status, and a modification filed by May 1st, would you be in agreement with that and uphold that?
Yeah, in fact, what I'll do is I will, Madam Chair, I'll put that in writing as a condition of the temporary CO to expire May 1st and it can be revoked at any time if he doesn't go in after the 30-day intervals.
Perfect.
Actually, I think the modification would be needed to be submitted by April 8th, if that's 3.5 weeks.
Yeah, you
For
can
May
count
1st
like
hitting.
4 weeks.
Right,
Oh,
and then
okay.
we're all in compliance. So I would say April 8th would be the date that the modification would need to be submitted. It gives you plenty of time for your 4 to 8 week window.
Do we have to say that it's a complete application? Because sometimes we'll get an application and there's things missing, and it can't be, it has to be complete.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
in
say
order
they're gonna
move
be
forward.
talking to you, right, in this whole process. My guess
Mhm.
would that you would get a complete application.
Okay.
I would add if there's some bump and we run into some, third-party insurmountable delay or whatever, would come in and explain that. So, that's the whole idea of the 30-day
Mhm.
reviews, is to.
And I like the bucket with the ADA sign. So I think those parking spaces really need to be marked.
So it's clear to me, then, I'm just going to recap, that the planning board would consider a temporary, signing off on a temporary certificate of occupancy, which will set to expire May 1st with 30-day, a report to planning department, 30 days on the progress. A complete application for modification to the major site plan, which outlines the changes that have taken place, and as-built, okay, by April 8th, which is, if it's complete, it'll give us enough time to get you advertised and on public hearing. And then the ADA sign concrete bucket.
Well, the ADA signage needs to be.
ADA, yeah, whether it's a bucket or
Yes,
something.
that needs to go in immediately.
I mean, that should be the immediate
So it's every 30 days, not just
Yes.
a 30-day.
30-day reports to town planner on status. Modification to be filed, a complete application by April 8th with as-built. The handicap signs installed, and then we need an assurance that when I do get the as-built and the application, it's going to town consultant for peer review. Okay, they have to do the inspection of what you submitted as as-built, what's changed, what's the same, and a bond estimate. If the bond estimate is still going to be needed at that point. It may not be if things are, if certain features are minor features.
Well, Karina, the goal here is to finish the project.
Right.
So the bond hopefully won't be needed at that point. And the board may look at it that whatever is remaining, if there is anything remaining, so de minimis, you don't even need a bond. But,
Okay.
let's cross that
So the-
bridge.
But there has to be an understanding that the as-built are going to be reviewed by the town's engineering consultant. So when we get the application with the as-built, standard processes, I submit those to the town engineering consultant. They've already provided me a scope and fee for review of those, which includes a site inspection, looking at that and providing a comment letter or review, just to let the planning board know what's done and what isn't. And confirming the changes.
Mhm.
Okay?
Yeah.
And the as-bills come with an engineer certifying letter saying that what's compliant and the items that have changed. It's in the conditions of the original permit. So I just want to make sure that it's
But
clear.
wouldn't we want to get through the next review of the site plan before we get into the site plan review? I mean, the third-party review?
Get through the modification.
No,
get
that
through the
becomes
mod-
part of the, when you submit a modification
Right.
application, it goes to the town's, it goes to the peer reviewer
Okay.
for review. That's part of the
Well, the
process.
modification itself.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
application, applications that have more extensive work in them, like, it hasn't been.
I got you.
Okay. It's a standard process for,
I got you.
site plans that have had construction, not just a change of use. So I just need that confirmed, that you're aware of that,
Mhm.
and that $4,000 cost estimate is something that is required for the peer reviewer to do that review. Okay, there is some leftover funds that I had mentioned to Michael, and I sent an email on. There's about $800 in the prior peer review which we could transfer and account towards that $4,000. But I can tell you that's what the fee came in. That was the estimated fee from Niche Engineering. It is same as major site plan. Hold on. Let me just tell you what the fee is. Hold on, give me 1 second. I'm almost there.
Estimated 1%. They're $1.5 million. It's a quarter of a percent.
Fee schedule. It's on the planning board website. So a modification to an approved major site plan, the fee, application fee is $520 plus the engineering consultant review.
So I would ask, Madam Chair, if as a reasonable thing, is there any way that, I mean, we're going to agree to obviously paying the third party because that's a third party bill. We, you know, that would, doesn't, is there any way where we can just waive the other fee? I mean, just the nominal fee that, you know, you have to pay. And then, you know, we'll agree to make sure that third party person is taken care of.
I'm okay with that, Ms. Houlihan.
I'm okay with that.
Mr. Maria, Rashia.
Yes.
So we'll waive that, but
Yeah.
with the understanding
You
that there
understand.
will be the consultant
Yeah,
review.
that's a third party, you know, it's not,
Yeah.
it's not fair for the taxpayer to pick up the tab. We understand.
Okay. That's
Yes, you got all that?
Okay. I'm ready to make a motion that the planning board allows the building inspector to issue a temporary certificate of occupancy for 40 to 42 Central Street with the following conditions. There are 30-day updates on what's happening by Paul and/or any other delegate on February 12th, March 12th, April 12th. If those times can't be met, that some communication be made. Modification of to major site plan with as-built by April 8th, recognizing the town will waive the $520 modification to major site plan fee, but engineering review costs would be required somewhere in the domain of $4,000. That ADA signage installation happens prior to temporary occupancy. And I think that's all I had.
With the temporary occupancy to end May 1.
With the temporary occupancy to end May 1.
Unless otherwise agreed.
Yeah, unless extended.
Yeah, well, you could make that request
Listen,
in
no,
any
I-
instance. Yeah.
And the other piece, just as your planner mentioned, that any residual money that's sitting there now would be applied to that. Okay.
Yeah, that's.
And I think it's right around 800, but I'll
Whatever.
confirm that because I keep a record of it.
Thank you.
May I just interject? I would like to see in there that some form of temporary lighting as well.
And a condition of a conversation around the lighting plan occur with either Karina or Marnie.
So does that mean lighting has to be installed?
No, just their lighting plan, what they're intending to do with their lighting.
Okay.
So we have an understanding.
With the as-built?
Yeah,
prior
or
to the
part of the
as-built?
conversations that just, we're having an open
30-day.
dialogue. Yep.
Like a photometric
Does that meet your
plan?
requirements? Or are you looking for the modification? It will be, the lighting plan will be part of their modification to major site plan.
I'd like to see something sooner, but I can live with this.
Okay, I second.
And just to be clear, so the 30-day check-ins are with the town planner. They don't have to come back here every
Yes.
30 days. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that that's what that. So I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Houlihan, yes?
Demiria, yes.
Ratio, yes.
Elniak, yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If you have any questions, give me a call. Are you going to stay
We'll be talking quite a bit, I'm afraid.
Okay.
Oh, you're looking forward to it, Paul.
Did you need to stay? Is Alex gonna zoom in or? I haven't been as I
No,
mean, I've deferred to Alex. on
I
that.
let Alex know that we were going to have the planning board delegate the vote to delegate the responsibility
To Alex
to MTC.
or to town council.
To town council, like
Yeah.
we did with the last
Yeah, I'm
one.
not, I haven't been that engaged in the complaint itself. I mean, I'm always happy to stick around. on the-
No, we just copied you on the process.
Right, that's fine, yeah.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is a discussion item, discuss delegating to town council the response to open meeting law complaint filed against the planning board by Michael Wyshawn on behalf of the Southborough Historic Society on January 8th. So there was an open meeting law complaint based on the site walk that we had on the 7th. And I just want to clarify some of the allegations made. I was accused of quickly turning it into an interrogation, but actually I just asked where the ADA parking spaces were. I did not reference any site violations as is mentioned in the complaint. The discussion on the deed is not within the jurisdiction of the planning board, so that wouldn't fall under an open meeting law complaint. And my habit of spying on Southborough residents is also not within the jurisdiction of the planning board, so it's not an open meeting law complaint. Neither is my supposed vendetta. But I just wanted to let the board know that, and I think we should delegate that response to town council. Ms. Houlihan.
No comment, and I appreciate your commentary on all the points, accusations made on the open meeting law. Is this requiring a vote?
Yes.
Okay.
I have no comment either. Thank you.
Ms. Brashear.
Nothing further.
Mr. Belniak.
I support relegating this to town council.
I make a motion to delegate the open meeting law complaint filed against the planning board by Michael Wyshan on behalf of the Southborough Historical Society on January 8th, 2026 to town council.
And I second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Houlihan, yes.
Samaria, yes.
Russia, yes.
Belniak, yes.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you, Jay. Appreciate
you,
you
Jay.
being here.
Your work is done here for this moment. Thanks, Jay.
Of course.
Sorry about always writing you a book when I send an email. I'm just trying to give you all the information.
The next item on the agenda is an A&R, Northborough Road, map 71, parcel 6. And this is back to you, Karina.
Colleen, can you let Jonathan Bolin in the attendees upgrade him to
Have a good night.
panelist?
Thank you.
Thank you, Jay.
What did you say, Tim?
Full screen.
Could you do full screen, Colleen?
I'm sorry. Where'd it go? Oh,
That's no screen.
sorry.
Okay, well, Colleen's getting that up. Did you elevate? There's Jonathan. Hi, Jonathan. Jonathan Bolin is here with Stamsky and McNary, the engineering surveying company that's representing Mark Johnson, who is the director of the Johnson Campbell Realty, Inc. Entity trust, I believe, that owns the property at Northborough Road, which is map 71, parcel 6, approximately 9 acres. Currently, it's one large parcel in the I believe it's Residence A zone. Oh, Residence, no, Residence A. It is. Oh, is it? Yeah, sorry. There was another one we were looking at. in the Residence A zone. The parcel is also currently in Chapter 61A agricultural tax exempt status, confirmed by the assessor card and speaking with the assessor. In addition, I reviewed the plan for completeness. Jonathan Bolin, who is one of the surveyors working on this project, made the revisions requested, showing setbacks, zoning table, adding a note that the property is currently under Chapter 61A. Also, there is a driveway for number 120 Northborough Road, which is the parcel that is kind of cut into the existing property. You can see in the top left corner, there's a small paved driveway that crosses over the property. I had him show that as well. We filed this with the town clerk on January 8th. We have, again, I vetted the information to the best of my ability. I reviewed the deed references, the notes. I made sure that for Residence A, that the Jonathan Bolin was the surveyor from Stamsky and McNary, was aware that he needed to be able to pass a 75-foot diameter circle through the lots from the front to the rear without hitting the sidelines. So you'll see on lot number 3, on lot number 2, I should say, the larger lot, there's a pinch point where he's confirmed it's 75.5 feet to pass through. One last thing, because lot 2 is somewhat of a corner lot, it is a corner lot, the railroad is to the south, and Northborough Road is to the north. It was my understanding that there was no rear setback here. There would be 2 side yard setbacks according to our zoning code, but that would be confirmed by the building commissioner at the time when they go for a foundation permit or a building permit. There's also what I believe is a perennial stream there, shown, so that side of the lot is very restricted. So sorry if I stole your thunder, Jonathan, but that's what I have, Mamie.
Thank you, Karina. Hi, Jonathan. Do you have anything you'd like to add to that?
I think Karina really covered it. I mean, it's it's a vacant lot, and we're dividing it into 3 lots that are zoning compliant. Northborough Road is an existing public way, so we feel that it's entitled to endorsement as an approval not required plan. That's really
Yeah,
it.
We also got feedback from town council. I had asked him if there were any impacts from the 61A, and there doesn't appear to be a concern with that, but it should be understood that they'll have to adjust their annual filing with the assessor. They cannot sell or convert any of the 3 properties to non-agricultural use while they remain within the 61A program. So it's a yearly application to stay within that program. So it's my understanding that you'd have to, that yearly application would have to be updated to reflect that. And then if they do go to sell the property or change the use there from agricultural, the assessor also has to be notified, and the proponents, whoever gets notified for the 61A.
They would have to pay the back taxes, and the town gets right of first refusal
And that's
on
right.
anything under Chapter 61.
That's right. There are those 2 other aspects of it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So for approval not required, just to all our fans out there, it's not considered needing subdivision approval if all the lots have frontage on a public way. So that's pretty much all we look at for an approval not required. Ms. Houlihan.
No questions. Thank you, Karina, for the diligence.
Ms. DeMaria.
Same here. Thank you very much, Karina. And I'm also getting the clarification on the 61A. So I don't have any questions tonight.
Ms. Braccio.
I have no questions, just so the proponent is aware that the town will still have right of first refusal on these parcels. That's all. Thank you.
Mr. Belniak.
Just one question. Karina, I know you mentioned it earlier with the driveway that cuts into the currently 120 Northborough Road. With the shift that would happen, that driveway would actually be on the new lot. Is there no issue with that?
It was there, it's still there. It was, those little squares that you see are old foundations from prior houses. So there's like a horseshoe drive that served those houses and also the house on 120. But those, that you see two little,
Right. Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is where it says iron pin found with the circle on it. Yeah. Yeah. So it looks like that would be the easterly side of the driveway. That driveway would now be on what would be that new, oh no, you know what? I'm sorry.
so this is an existing lot
Yep.
that's owned by someone else. It's kind of a weird shaped lot. So this is an someone else owns it.
Yeah, okay. I'm good. Thank you.
Yeah, it's just shown, they're required to show existing above ground and below ground structures, wetlands and such. And that was there. Nothing else was really paid.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you. I also have no questions.
I make a motion to approve the approval not required on Northborough Road, map 71, parcel 6.
A second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Houlihan, yes.
Demiria, yes.
Brascio, yes.
Belniak, yes?
Okay, well, Jonathan, we'll get that plan signed this evening. And there's a notice of vote that goes to town clerk, and I'll let you know when you can come pick it up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Next
Thanks.
item on the agenda is MOCOD bylaw dimensional table correction. That's the
NBT.
MBTA Communities Overlay District. So at the meeting that we had, the proponent come for a discussion of a potential development. It was brought to our attention that the table within the overlay district does not match the dimensional standards of the Res B district, or probably any of the other districts. For the height, for Res B in particular, it's under our code, under the dimensional standards of Res B, it's 2.5 stories, 35 feet, and the table has an or put in there, which I don't think is the same as the code. Also, the floor area ratio, they have, instead of 0.3 floor area ratio, they have 0.3%, which is very, very limiting. So the question is whether we want to bring the table to town meeting to update it, or if we just want to leave it and explain to people that it's supposed to comply with Res B, and if they want to go with the 2.5 stories or 35 feet, they will also have to comply with the 0.3% FAR. So that's what this is on a discussion for. I'm not sure if we want to go back to town meeting with just that table and open that can of worms, or leave it as is the question. Ms. Houlihan.
Thanks. So one, I want to first just acknowledge Alan did a little research and he shared his thoughts kind of after that meeting around that. And, I think, I'm going to read verbatim what he said. He said, taken together, the clean conservative reading is in the MBTA Residence B area, you have to stay at or below both 2.5 stories and 35 feet. Practically, that means something like 2 stories at 40 feet is not okay. It's too tall in feet. 3 stories at 32 feet is not okay. It's too many stories. And 2.5 stories at 34 feet is okay because it maintains both caps. So I think that in pragmatic and practicality standards, like I think if we have that, but I do, as much as I don't want to open up the town meeting thing, we do have 2 other zoning bylaws going in. Maybe if we put another request for an additional bylaw just to update that table and provide that clarity, it might actually be helpful to put something like that language very clearly in there. And I think if we present it that way to town will understand that it's like we're trying to do the right thing here. And I think it would probably be in the best interest moving forward with MBTA. So I would vote for yes to do it. Since I did MBTA, I'm happy to present the bylaw and write the new table up with that language.
Mr. Maria.
I was wondering if it's a Scrivener's error. If it, because-
We, I asked town council and he said, no, would have to bring it to town meeting.
Okay, I think a comma makes a big difference here. It was an amazing correction that, thanks to Alan and the work and what you did. And I think I do support bringing it to town meeting as well.
Ditto. Thank you, Ellen.
Sure. I think bringing it to town meeting is appropriate because trying to have to defend this like some other way down the line becomes really impractical, especially if it happens beyond the 5 years. If some of us are not on this board anymore, it becomes really difficult to enforce or even untangle. And I think it's just the way we present it. This is just simply a tabular update. If nothing else is changing from the last time we spoke about this, it's just to make sure this agrees with this. And I fully support Marnie presenting this.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So when it went to town meeting, and I should have went back and looked and I didn't, did it say or?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
And it had those percentage signs in there. I don't know how, those got in at the end somehow. I don't know.
Okay, then I absolutely support this.
So my only concern was that would bring this forward and it would be moved to like remove the bylaw or delete the bylaw or, so I think I would like to check and see if we can just do this pass or fail on this table and no other discussion on the bylaw, if that's possible.
In insulation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine deleting the bylaws outside the 4 corners of taking the word or out of a chart, but it's always best to
hope-
use caution, and I agree, but
Okay. So maybe ask town council how to best do the most surgical approach to this.
Yep.
Right, so we're all in agreement to move this forward
yes,
and for Marnie to present.
absolutely.
Just a comment, town clerk did this. Remember, he made a town vote to like allow him to make administrative Scrivener or updates, and it was just a yes, no, not allowed for debate or something. I don't know. I agree. So if we ask town council, how do we kind of present it the way the town clerk did, that this is a Scrivener's error, and to present it in that fashion, be very straightforward about it, but make sure that it complies with the Residence B,
Yep.
which was the intent of.
Absolutely.
Well, I think the other ones say or too, which need to get those ors out of on the,
Town code?
no, on the table. So we have, I think it's the Res B and then 2 industrial parcels.
They all say- The entire table, the
Yeah,
entirety of the table.
and get
would just
all
replace the
those
commas. Yep.
percentage signs out of there. Okay.
Okay.
Would it be to isolate just those 2 rows of data?
I think the entire table, I would just extract the entire table and put a brand new table in
Okay.
and just show the town that we're only just putting commas in.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, it would be, if we can put like a little note, like that just says kind of your practical,
Right, but shorter.
but shorter, yeah.
So I think that's a question for town council on how to most surgically
Yes.
do this.
Okay.
If he says just those 2 lines, then fine, we can show the table for,
See what he says.
yeah.
Okay. Because you just don't want
That, we
anything
don't want
weird
anything
changed.
else changed, yeah,
Because the compliance model
would
was.
would
this
be
is
in
part of that, it's
compliance.
Tied to this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And the compliance model was tied to the comma. It wasn't an or.
Right.
So, I mean, the compliance model, the way that it was
Yeah, yeah,
constructed,
yeah.
was constructed appropriately. I don't know where it.
I don't know. I looked
happened.
back.
Yeah, it's,
back.
yeah, who knows, right? A lot of hands in the works. Quick question just on that is, do we now have to ask Mark Purple for another space on the warrant for an additional bylaw request? So we'll have industrial park,
I'll look to see if we included it with our request.
55 housing.
There were 4 of them that we sent in, we sent him an email to hold certain things.
Okay.
Four of them.
4.
4 of them. Did we, Colleen, did we include the
shops.
MBTA communities table
Oh, that's 4.
in that email? We'll check.
Okay.
If not,
Yeah, we'll have to check.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I don't know what the process is to get certain things considered for consent, but this might be one of the ones that we
Yeah.
could consider to roll up
That's a
into
good
the
idea.
consent.
Oh, yeah.
Just because it's like, and then if someone has a question, but otherwise, if people like, it's just updating a table, then it's even faster. So I don't know what that process is, but if someone else does, something to keep in mind.
Ask the moderator, yeah.
I can do that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Tim.
All right, hold on.
So that, enough with that one. The next item on the agenda is discussion item 55 plus housing bylaw update discussion. Oh, with Affordable Housing Trust. Is they here?
They're not here.
I had feedback from, so Colleen let, Doug and Ellen Myra, Paul Desmond. So we got feedback from Doug Manson. He would not be able to attend, possibly that Ellen, Maria, or Paul Desmond may attend. So let me see who we
I
have.
don't
No.
see them.
And I, just as an update then, so I've updated the bylaw. So over the holiday, Mimi then took an edit, Ellen took an edit, and so a clean, both a red line version and a clean version is right in front of you that's been printed out. I think it's in a really good state. We addressed a couple of things, so let me just share with the what I did update. Let me just read my note. It's the best way to do this. Okay, so I have updated the version, and so there's a couple of things that I identified in the document. I have cleaned up the language. So first of all, we removed shop C because shop C is in there, and so we moved shop C and made it to the housing. Of course, I should have it right in front of me.
Affordable Housing Trust.
The Affordable Housing Trust. We made sure that we did talk about the last time is having a density, retain the density. So we retained that density, and we are suggesting a maximum of 6 units per contiguous acre, exclusive of 80% of wetlands. We also, I've added in language around the biggest change is what I recommended is a definition change. So instead of having what we used to call, give me 1 second. Housing for the elderly, we're going to call it independent multifamily housing for seniors, 55 plus. We liked that language a little bit better. So that's one part of the definition, is to change that throughout our town code as well. And then the 2 considerations that I did pull in was to consider contribution in lieu of on-site units and rounding. So as you think about, Lisa, you had requested a higher minimum. Yep. After kind of listening to Doug and the Affordable Housing Trust and kind of doing some independent research, really anything, honestly, above 15% makes it very complicated for builders.
Yep.
So I put this in at 12.5%, which makes a rounding issue. And so if you build whatever for 6 units, then you're gonna have a little bit more than one. And so the request in this document is to put a contribution in lieu. We've used language that's basically been extracted right from Westboro. And I think it was, that's Ellen. I will defer to Ellen. She pulled that, she found that language, and I think it's really strong language. And it's really about the planning board by special permit of the planning board, where we can actually designate that payment in lieu to be able, for them to be able to do that. And what a monetary payment would be equal to 2 times the most current HUD income limit for a household of 4 in the metropolitan area. That includes Southborough. And so I think it's a conversation to bring to the public, but at least having that language in, seeing that other towns have also included that language, I think it gives an opportunity for us to get the full value versus just you're only going to get 1 unit and then there's something that's left on the table. So if we can kind of extract that. I think that was the major change that we had in that document. And then Mimi identified too that if we make all these updates, we actually need to make sure that we update the language throughout the code in all of the, Res B, Res A, Res B, and all of the different areas that allows independent multifamily housing for seniors. I think that was it. And so you have these documents. I don't think there's really the ask for the planning board, because we will need to file for a public hearing relatively soon, right? February? So just to make sure you read the documents, and if you have any perspective or feedback for me, I know that the Affordable Housing Trust will be meeting on Thursday and talking about it. So they'll give their feedback to us. So we'll have more information coming after their meeting, and then we can kind of siphon it through so that we're prepared for maybe our next meeting to have a more conversive feedback on whether you like it or not, or what needs to change.
Question. So if I heard you right, we have a public hearing. The zoning change itself would happen at the town meeting, but we have a public hearing to make the change, and then we bring the change to town meeting? Okay.
Yeah, any zoning amendments require a public hearing before the planning board.
And it allows us to nuance it before we finalize what goes into the warrant article, essentially.
So the sooner we do a public hearing, the better, because then we won't run into the
Make a whole change.
the warrant closing on us. Any comment, Ms. DeMaria?
No, I think it looks really great. Thank you. Thanks for all the work.
Ms. Braccio?
Who's going to be sponsoring the article?
Great question.
Well, I think that it has to either be planning board, zoning board, or select board.
Right, okay. I still have some concerns. But as you said, I guess it doesn't serve any purpose in going over them tonight, that I'll just wait until the public hearings start to share them, I guess. It just doesn't make any sense to do it tonight, I guess. So I have a couple.
No, well,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think if you have comments that are worth us to feed back
To
to the
discuss.
Affordable Housing Committee, because
Okay.
they're talking about it on Thursday, like this is a time where we should be editing and thinking about it, so.
Okay. So me personally, and I understand the point about payment in lieu, but I've seen, unfortunately, it being used to not do anything, that you get $100,000, it sits in an account, and here we are 15 years later and nothing's been done. So that's my concern. I don't know what the number would be, Marnie. Maybe it's 10%. I don't know. I understand there's always going to be an issue if you put in 6 units, it's a little over, little under. I mean, I don't know what the answer is, but I see taking a payment in lieu. I know Westboro does it, but I had a great conversation with the chair from Westboro probably a year ago, and they don't just get this money. Every site plan that they do for commercial and whatnot, there's mitigation monies built in that go into the trust. It's part of the process. So they have like millions of dollars. And so it's just a concern. And again, I don't think Westboro is a good one to use because they have so many other opportunities for money where we don't. And again, it would have to make, I don't know what that number would be based on the calculation that Alan was talking about. It would have been helpful to know potentially what that number could have been. You know, if it's $200,000, well, I might feel a little bit differently then, you know, but not knowing what that number could be, I just, payment in lieu of taxes has never been extremely successful in Southborough. It was done on one of Kevin Giblin's projects, Mimi, going back. He donated $100,000 to the town, and again, I
think that was Barn Lane. It was supposed to be 2 units.
And it's in lieu of on-site units, so it's not in lieu of taxes. So it's in lieu of, because I'm falling short, there's going to be a discrepancy.
So it's only on the discrepancy.
It's only on the discrepancy. And then
Okay.
the question is, maybe we put a 3 that says, where does the money get designated? And maybe that's a conversation that,
I mean,
it goes to the Affordable Housing Trust Committee and they can apply it, or
right, that's where it
so
should go.
maybe we are very clear about what,
Right.
because it is clear that it's a discrepancy, and the discrepancy would be equal to the 2 times the most current HUD income limit, and I don't know what that would be.
Well, it says in lieu of on-site units and rounding discrepancy.
Right.
So that says to me that if you don't want to build the units,
you just
you
give
can
money.
pay.
But that would be by special permit of the planning board. So the planning board would have to review it and say, no, you
Yeah.
can't. You have to, you still have to build the unit and you have to pay the discrepancy. But I can make that more
Okay,
clear.
yeah,
or-
I was unclear on that. Marta.
Okay.
So, and then my other question was, under the definition, housing requiring at least 80% of the units to have one resident 55 or older. So I look at, you have 10 units, so 2 of those units could have 2 25-year-olds living in it. So why are we calling it over 55 if it's not going to be? And I get the whole inclusionary thing. I get that, but I just, to me, it's unclear because, 80% out of 10 units, 2 units could go to anybody, which again, I'm not against, especially if they're affordable. I'm all about it. But again, I just,
So I actually looked up how people define independent multifamily housing for seniors.
Yep.
And 100% was never included as 100% of units are 55
Okay.
or over. So there was always like a 75 to 80%. And,
Okay.
and again, because like, let's just say the 55-year-old person passes away.
Yep.
And then there are people in the house that are not 55, they cannot be forced to move because someone passed away and they're not meeting the eligibility criteria of the one person in the household for 55.
I get that, but what's the bonus for being able, what's the density bonus for being able to do and call it an over 55? Again, I'm not trying to be
Yep, no. I think
contrary on
these are
this,
all
but I
really
think
good
if I'm at
questions.
town meeting and I'm saying, if I bother to look at this, I'm saying, so you're getting a benefit, you're getting 6 units an acre, and it doesn't have to be over 50. And maybe, again, I'll look into it too. Maybe there's a reason why it's 80%, but I look at it, and again, I'm all for housing for everybody. And honestly, over 55 housing in Southborough is not affordable in any way in most cases. So, again, just,
Yep. it's a
I
great
don't know why
question. Yep.
it's that way. I mean, not that, again, I would love to see, if I'm an over 55, chances are I'd love to see some little kids running around. I mean, that's a great thing. I think it is anyway. But again, it's contrary to me, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Can I add on to that comment, Lisa,
Yes.
before you
Oh,
continue?
go ahead.
Just because it relates. If we're going through the process, of changing housing for the elderly to independent multifamily housing for seniors to 55 plus, what if we just strike the 55 plus? The rest of it still stands on its own. It speaks to the spirit of housing for seniors. There might be 1 or 2 units, 80%, as it were, two out of 10, that wouldn't necessarily be someone has to be 55. But this way, I mean, I guess this is the comparison of the spirit of the law versus the letter of the law. I think if we were to strike the 55, knowing what you said about 80%, I think that does speak to the spirit of it. But if we, I don't know, maybe that might be too confusing to people or too much of a loophole.
Does that create an issue with multifamily housing in the bylaw?
I think it would make it no different, right?
Right.
Oh,
So the seniors put that age restriction on it, and seniors is generally defined as 55
Yeah,
plus
okay.
in most.
okay.
I mean,
Which I hate, by the way.
I do too. Though I will say I used my senior discount at Walgreens for the first time the other day, and I was very excited to save my $5. But I mean, I'm just curious as to why it's the 80%, Marnie. I'm not necessarily against it.
No, but it's a good,
I
it's a good
just-
FAQ to have.
And again, I'm sure this is probably, I should have looked this up and I didn't. So no development shall exceed an average per site of a maximum, 1A. Of a maximum 6 units per contiguous acre exclusive of 80% wetlands. So there's a 10-acre site. 70% of the site is wetlands, so there's this little tiny area to be able to build. So I think about the density, but I guess it's still only 6 units. I'll hold that thought for now. I have to think it through more.
The original town code had,
That.
and six bedrooms per contiguous acre, exclusive of 80% wetlands. So we went from bedrooms to units.
Okay.
As a kind of, because you're not allowed to restrict on bedrooms.
Right.
So then we said, okay, what would our, and this is the conversation we were talking about between 4 and 6.
Yep,
And people leaned to 6. I was on the 4 range.
yep.
So I went 6, but I think we can still have that debate.
Okay, I'm done. That's it. I guess I didn't think that all the way through. So, thank you.
Mr. Belniak, anything else?
Nope, I'm fine. Thank you.
Yeah. So my only question, and thank you, Marnie.
Sure.
You
I
did
should've
a great,
started with that.
yeah, you did a great
Sorry.
job on this. In this over 55 bylaw was always intended to have affordability. That's why it was supposed to be owned by nonprofit and community housing organizations, but it was not followed. So this is good to have it very definitive and laid out. My only question, I don't mind the 80% 55 plus, who I refuse to call seniors. I just don't know how you enforce that.
Yeah. I think that Ms. Gillespie from our town also asked the same question because of that. She brought up examples, like we've never been able to enforce it.
Yep.
But I'd hate to restrict language in there and just because we fail at implementing things, right? It's like getting, I don't know, land donated to our town and not having anyone follow through on that. Is that, how do we do that? I don't know the answer. But maybe if you put a 3 where you designate the authority that collects on the payment.
Well, this is the units have to be 80% 55 and older.
That. That's a
Was
good
my question on that.
So,
Because I know right now we have a requirement that there are no more than 2 people that live in each, and that's not followed either.
but I think that's monitored by the HOA.
Yeah,
So
or not.
maybe we spell it out that who is, and if,
And I'm not particularly in favor of that. I'm just saying that that's something that's in our code that is not followed and not really enforceable on the town end.
Right, because currently it says housing for the elderly is designed as housing with occupancy of each dwelling unit reserved to no more than 2 persons,
Right.
one of whom must be either 55 years of age or older or handicapped.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'd be more apt to leave that in and just put someone designated that someday may choose to, if they get a complaint, at least look at it to enforce it versus leaving it to an HOA that potentially an HOA.
I'll write
Yeah.
it down. It's just a question for affordable housing too, is.
And then, since we brought up the in lieu of, so I'm totally in favor of the in lieu of for rounding discrepancies. I think that's a great idea to not leave on the table, but not the on-site units, because we need units more than we need money. Because it's very difficult for the town to build them or buy them.
So we would call that something about rounding discrepancies. I'd need to just reword that. But it would not be a contribution in lieu of on-site units. It would just be a contribution to achieve full, whatever, 12.5%
Yep.
Well-
value. I'll revisit that language.
But Marnie, thank you, really thank you for doing this.
Yes,
It wasn't an
this is-
easy task
No,
to
it's
take on by
great.
any means. I certainly wouldn't have volunteered to do it. So, thank you.
So do you want to start preparing for the hearing now? Like put in the ads now or
I think we
I
should.
think so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
On everything.
I think so.
right?
on all of them?
If we're gonna do all
Yep.
of them.
Yep,
And
Okay.
I'll relay this.
we'll
to
start
Ellen.
rolling them out and getting them on the,
Yep.
because it takes a little time to advertise. them.
Right, yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And the earlier the better. Did you get one of these? So I
I'm
pass
good.
it
You can
down-
pass it
Back down to its rightful owner.
So we'll have 5 zoning amendments,
Oh, you're welcome.
or are there 4? Is the shop seat replacement
1,
included in the
2, 3,
55 plus?
4.
Depends on who presents it. I think it should be a separate
Yeah,
warrant article.
yeah.
And it's again, administrative,
Yeah.
Yeah,
so I don't know if that's
Agreed.
something that could be negotiated as a consent.
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda, speaking of which, is a zoning amendment to replace Shop C with the Affordable Housing Trust because we no longer have Shop
Yep.
C. It has been replaced by the Affordable Housing Trust.
And that's very straightforward. There were 3 instances where it showed up. 174-13-2, major residential development, A1A and E5C2C, where, again, the Southborough Housing Opportunity Partnership Committee was in there and we just want to replace it. And then in 916 establishment terms. And so it's only 3 places. My suggestion is that the Affordable Housing Committee, I mean, I guess it's a zoning thing, so we have to do it, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
so again, I've put it together and then I think we just need to separate it as one.
So are we in favor of sponsoring this?
Yes.
And what about the over 55?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. The next item on so any questions or comments on? The next item on the agenda is Industrial Park District expanded uses.
Okay, I sent Karina an email to communicate to all of you guys of you all have the draft. So the last conversation we had was around 2 things. Should we combine the industrial park district and the industrial district? And my feeling after reviewing everything is no. And I think that the intent of the park was to really have this kind of more, again, we're eliminating a lot of it, but I think it was intention to have like this more controlled environment for employment and fostering this area. We've already kind of mucked around a little bit with that, with the zoning bylaw for the Costco, right? Because that impedes a little bit in that. But the one thing it does do, if we maintain the IP versus industrial, it allows an industrial park, especially those near residential, to have a lot more tighter constraint around like noise and some of the things that Deb, you've been vocal about. And I think we maintain that. And then we can be a little bit more critical and constructive around what happens in the industrial park district versus industrial. And so the recommendations are pretty much the same, except that I've started to do it a lot more reading on data centers. And I would say, Tim kind of put this in the back of my mind, and then reading about data centers and seeing what's happening, I just, right before the meeting started, like a $6 billion data center deal just happened with Arizona for 750 acres. And so what's required of
We're
data
not getting
centers
that here.
No, not at all. We don't have that. We don't have low cost electricity. I mean, there's a whole lot of reasons why, but I personally don't think we put data centers as an allowable use, that it could be used as a special permit, but this is where I need kind of all of your thought partnership and reading it and reading that white paper that I provided. How do we construct language that says, if you're thinking about a data center, it's a whole nother ball of wax. Like, it's not just a facility of servers. Like, it's just, it's so different. It requires a lot of different resourcing and really a town planning around it. And so my recommendation is that we have the industrial park district, and maybe it's like a paragraph within that, but it's a very clear, defined set of rules and regs around a data center by special permit, regardless of size.
Yeah.
And that would be separate, because we have some allowable uses at, I think I increased it to 75,000 square feet, and then what needs to happen at above 75,000 square feet. And I think a data center just comes out as a special permit, but this is all the things that have to happen. And I think if you guys read that and give your feedback, again, not if you did it, great, I'll take it tonight. But if you didn't, that would be my request. And then I can work on that for the next meeting and then get it out to the draft public so that people can comment on it. So that's kind of where that's at, but I think we're in a really good place otherwise.
Mr. Murray.
Marnie, thanks again for the tremendous work, actually. It's really remarkable. I totally agree with you. I had some additional thoughts also about industrial park and industrial, and I couldn't really articulate it the way you did, but I do think it gives us flexibility anyway to have the separate zoning areas, because we don't actually know what's going to happen in the future. We might need a different one in the future. I am not as up to speed as you are on these data centers, so I really appreciate that. What I didn't see in this draft is the highway major retail in this draft. Did I miss it?
Because that's a separate, that was approved as a separate,
But if
not
we
part of
update the
this.
IP, don't we need to incorporate that back in it? I mean,
It's a good question.
I mean, we actually discussed it with Bob, I think the attorney, where he said, I see you're updating the IP district. You may just update it in a way, later in the future anyway. And I remember thinking at that time that's kind of strange, but I think that we did a carve out for major highway retail, but now it has to come back into this revision. Like, that's my thinking. I
So
don't
my
know.
only thought for that is that that's been approved.
Right.
If we put this in front of the town meeting, it doesn't get approved and it's in there.
Yeah.
I think that's a worry. I would rather do this separately. We have that and then merge them later as a administrative process.
Okay, if that's allowed, because I agree with you, there was a lot of work on that, and I can't remember the number, but was that 174,806? Was highway major retail? I can't remember.
I don't
It was
know. I
E or
gotta look
something
at it.
like that. I mean, that was just my question. Like, if it's not in here,
So-
what we're saying is we're updating industrial park, but we're not updating the industrial park bit that we just did. And I'm not sure that you can really do that. So I like that if you can.
So I think you're right, Debbie. I think that it was added for a use under industrial park, but then all the verbiage was under special permit, I think.
It was under definition. So Article 1 was to see if the town will vote to amend the following 172.4-2B titled definitions by adding highway major retail as a new definition as defined below, and 2, add 174-8.6C titled IP Industrial Park District to include highway major retail as a use allowed by special permit in the IP Industrial Park. So this use is listed in the IP district. Is that what you're asking?
I see what you're saying. So I feel like I need a conversation with town council. 'Cause I don't know how we do that.
So I think we just add the use and then the definition goes into all the, which
Definitions.
you don't need to
Right, touch that.
touch that.
Okay.
Yeah, because the second article, the second part of that article was like 174A, uses requiring a special permit are as follows, and it said, number 16, highway major retail, note special permit from the planning. Board. So that was the,
Yes.
there was a definition and then just adding the use. The definition was the long part.
Yes.
And the use was just one
Just
line
listed.
saying,
See.
add this.
Oh, just add. So we would just add it and they didn't designate it.
They said 16.
So 174-8.6C.
16. It's not in there yet because, is it? It's
No,
not in the
it's-
code.
no,
yet.
we don't have it.
No.
So it would be, so we're right now up to, oh, I don't even
11?
know. Yeah,
So it would be 12.
Yep.
Because we're going to take data centers out.
correct. Well, that's my recommendation.
Anything else? Mrs. Murray?
I'm just want to make sure I understand. I totally agree that we don't want to crack this whole thing open. But because this is industrial park, the four corners are big. So could someone specifically go in and say, I want to revisit highway major retail? But that's what we're trying not to do. So I like your thinking about,
So what-
just putting in the use change and not putting in the whole rest of the language, but.
Well, the whole rest of it has already been passed.
Right,
And part of that was adding that use to industrial park.
right.
So if we came and passed this, then that use wouldn't be an industrial park anymore.
Right.
So it needs to be in
Yeah, just as the use though, is actually
Just the
just
use.
listed.
just the use.
Highway major retail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I like that. I think that works.
So that would be the new 12, because right now it would be 16 in our county code. But I've eliminated some of those
Yeah.
in the process of consolidation. So 12 would be the highway major retail. Good catch. Okay, so I'll modify that.
Anything else, Mr. Murray? Ms. Braccio?
Want to hit the button. I don't. Marnie, thank you so much. This was a huge, huge undertaking. And I've been reading a lot. There's been a lot of data center stuff in the news as well. So, yeah, I think we need to be very careful where data centers are concerned. While they bring in a ton of revenue to the town, they're not, yeah.
Oh, we have to
yeah.
make sure we're protected.
We have to make sure that, yeah, we're protected. So I have nothing else to add, but again, thank you. Thank you for this.
Mr. Belknap?
I have one question and then just two super quick comments. The question I have is, in the currently numbered new section 12, that goes on to, I guess, page 3, where we write, this definition does not include server rooms or information technology infrastructure that is accessory to the principal use of the site. The way I parse that is, if there's like regular equipment to run a building, and if that building happens to be a data center, that's not what we're talking about. The rest of this stands to just the overwhelming infrastructure overload that a data center does permit. Okay.
Correct.
So that was my just clarification. My two comments would be, I don't know if we would normally do this, but right where we start, this definition does not. We might consider putting a paragraph break just to visually separate it, but I don't really care. And then up above, we have water cooling and storage. There's just a typo there for cooling.
Oh,
That's it.
calling? You don't like that? Thank you.
Just catching it now rather than later. That's all. Otherwise, great work.
Right, and then you saw all this, like this 2.5 pages or one on data centers. And a lot of that is just what is recommended, what other towns, like, I shouldn't say towns, I should say cities are doing. Like, towns really haven't started doing this, but like, you know, a lot of the development standards are really, really very clear around data centers. So that's where it's for me, it's, I don't really know where to put it in our bylaw. Like and that's where I just love additional like thinking, like, is it data center just a use requiring a special permit and it's 13? And then all of this information flows after 13. But it's a lot of what's recommended by what I've seen. And it's, I mean, people who build data centers see this, like, this is very common language. But I don't know if it's enough. And I don't know if the planning board is the right group to be thinking about this either. Like, I think we should also ask other people.
Agreed. So just so I understand, you're proposing just to take it out of IP, right? For
No,
this-
to have it in there.
To have it in there for.
But be very clear that a data center has its own entire set of frontage requirements,
Yep.
cooling, all of these kind of additional parameters, setbacks. Everything is different for that special permit than it is for any of these other things that we're suggesting.
Isn't that what they did with the highway major retail?
Kind of.
In the
Kinda,
definition.
But they stuck it
and
under
then you just
definition.
put- Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that this would make more sense as another category under special permit, because under special permits, it's like accessory
list of-
apartments,
right.
major resident, not major residential, but
Mm.
conversion of two-story,
But isn't it that how it is right now? It's drafted under C, uses requiring a special permit are as follows. The new number 12 is data center.
Right. So maybe we have uses permitted up to 75,000 square feet. C, uses permitted that exceed 70,000 feet. Oh, no. I don't know. Like, I don't know how to think about this. This is where I was stuck. This is where I just needed other people to think about it.
Can I ask whether we thought about putting the data center zoning in industrial
Versus industrial
versus
park.
industrial park?
No, we haven't talked.
Are they noisy? I can't even remember. I was going back to Matt's presentation,
They have a
except for an
hum.
occasion explosion.
well, that was the, that was the BESS, not a data.
Oh, oh,
Right,
oh,
if
oh,
you
oh,
look
that was
on
it.
this step, yeah.
Yeah.
It talks about located at least 400 feet from the lot line of a residential district or property, so there has to be some
There's some
level of noise,
Yep.
yes.
So is it better suited for industrial?
Well, I think industrial abuts much more residential than an industrial park.
But that would preclude data centers from coming in if we put it in that zone.
And I think we'd rather have language in about a data center than not have it at all.
Yeah.
And deal with kind of what we had to deal with this back channel and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I do like what Arizona put in, you know, as far as setbacks, as far as, excuse me, the maximum building size. I mean, I do like a lot of what I'm seeing that they put in, the development standards.
Oh, so those development standards are kind of what planning associations and data centers have kind of mutually come together to build a white paper.
Okay,
And that's what I pulled and extracted that from.
okay.
Okay, I was gonna ask how much of what you put in here where you're saying adopted from Fairfax and Chandler, Arizona relates or jives with the ULI report you sent?
Yeah, so it's kind of all, I took, like, Fairfax had something that I'm like, oh, I like that for our
Yeah.
town. So I would adapt it as, but most of that white paper is all those
Okay.
requirements in there,
Which,
which are standard for data centers expect to see.
yeah, and if you, I'm just looking to see if it's footnoted or all or referenced. It might be worthwhile to put that in because this way, I mean, obviously it's gonna be dated, right? So in 5 years, is it still valid? Who
Yep.
knows? But this way, it's like, we didn't just pick this out of thin air. Like, this is based on something that's been circulated, peer reviewed and approved.
Good point.
Yeah, my only question is, so does this replaces the whole industrial park
Yes.
district? So I wonder, just for warrant article, if we need to put delete 174, 8.6 and
Oh.
replace.
Yes, I think you're right.
And I think if we put data center and then it's specifically called out as a category under special permit with all of these things, then that would work.
Okay. All right, I'll pull it that way. And then leave like, so that's still under C. It'll be 13. And then I'd still have D, E, although development standards are as follows. That applies to all of these.
Oh,
Do you know?
then C 174-9, blah, blah, or something.
Okay, all right. I'll work it out and have something to.
And my only question was, so right now we considered those battery energy storage systems to be fuel storage or fuel,
I think
yeah,
so.
fuel storage. Do we need a specific call out,
BESS.
BESS? Do we need a specific call out for those with any? It's a Dover, but I don't know if we need to have those plans that Matt was saying we should ask for with the emergency plan or.
Yeah.
And maybe fire automatically does that, but I don't know.
So maybe
That was
would
my
be
only
included.
question.
Yeah, maybe we would, and that's again, this comes down to like, how do you put it in there so it makes sense as we as planning board members read it and understand, oh, when that has that, is that part like a 3A? If it's a BESS, it requires blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else from the board?
Nope.
Mr. Lit.
Tim Litt, still Woodland Road. So, a couple of thoughts. I've been out in Chandler. Previous employer had, large semiconductor fabrication plants and that sort of thing in that area. So what I can tell you is that it is desert. It is a place where there is lots of land. It's a place where lots of water is used, but there isn't any. And it's a place where power is cheap, both solar and otherwise. So figuring out, how to take the right lessons from that and not take accidentally the wrong lessons from
Right.
that is going to take some
Yeah.
thought. Chandler is I wouldn't quite call it a suburb, but it's near Phoenix. It's sort of, driving distance from there. I don't know, I'm not looking, I don't have what you have in front of you. I don't know what Fairfax is doing. But that's also going to be a bit different from
But that's not
what we do
desert.
with.
No.
Fairfax.
Right.
And that's probably it on this subject until I have something to look at.
Mr. Litt, would you like something to look at?
If you give me something to look at, I'll look.
Well, I would love that if you'd like to offer some thoughts. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll share it with you and some of the articles that I had, once I go through this and update.
Yeah, I guess the other things are, I don't know what the expertise of the current MTC members are. As far as I know, they haven't been in the data center business, but that's certainly going to come up. And then, as you heard, at least some of you heard, the Board of Health probably has more influence over what happens than anyone else does because, of the noise and the nuisance. But I don't know if you forwarded the note to the rest of the board that I sent with a paper on the battery energy storage systems.
You did.
Hopefully that's helpful.
Before Christmas, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did it
Try to
happen 3
forward
minutes
everything,
ago?
yes.
I have no idea.
I did read that. Thanks,
Thank you,
Tim.
Tim. Anything else on that? Thank you very much, Marnie. That's a ton of work. I don't know how you're going to continue on if you're working. Next item on the agenda, subdivision rules and regulations update.
So I was able to use some time over the break to make some, in my own singular estimation, significant progress. I will have some things to share with Karina probably tomorrow to look at.
you.
And so just to give everyone a heads up, what my intent is to share with Karina and Bill. Bill has it in his inbox. I'm sure he's just jammed, but just to get a quick preview of it and sort of initial thoughts, and then share it around with the rest of the board. And that's not to hide it from you all or anything. It's more just to make any sort of edits manageable from 2 people rather than like from 7. So, but I welcome the comments, and then I'll share it back. And the 2 things I'm talking about are sort of a review of our current A&R plans, our A&R guidelines, and then some opportunities for some changes and why. And the other thing is doing several site walks, both with and without Bill Cundiff and the town engineer, about what our some current subdivisions look like, and some ways where we might want to sort of harden up our reviews of subdivisions that come through based on what we're seeing in the field now, to prevent some of those things from happening again. So that's what should be coming shortly.
Great, thank you very much.
Yep.
Next item on the agenda, 250 Turnpike Road parking variance request. So this is a request. Do you want me to go, or do you want to go?
Yeah, I think this is on the 211 CBA hearing. Is this on February 11th?
I don't know.
I'll have to look ahead. The ZBA has received variance application for 250 Turnpike Road, requesting a variance from the required number of parking spaces for the self-storage facility. I forwarded you all a copy of the application. I think what's going on there, and this is just my very cursory understanding, there's a footbridge that goes from the lower lot where the recently approved contractor's yard building is going to be located, and the existing storage facility on the upper lot. I don't believe that there's a plan to, at this time, instead of repairing the footbridge, they want to separate the parking. And they're asking to have less parking in the upper lot to service the existing storage facility up there. That's the gist of it.
So the reason I asked that it go on the planning board agenda is if the planning board wants to write a letter with our comments to the zoning board of appeals. And just some of my initial thoughts, it's less than a half of the required parking. And one of the tests for a variance is that it doesn't substantially derogate the purpose of the bylaw. And I think having parking less than half what is required does that. And I don't know if there's any mitigation if they say that they haven't used all those spaces in 2 years, but what if they do? You're gonna have people parking on Route 9. So those are my initial thoughts.
Is there also a need for modification to the site plan if they're changing the parking,
I would think so.
right? Because zoning code says, real quickly here. Code 174. Let me just read it real quick. Could be wrong, but I think it would trigger something like that. So 174-10 says any non-residential development that results in an increase in on-site parking, which that isn't. All modifications to existing development projects would fall within the applicability of the town's regulations for parking and loading or landscaping. And then also under Part H, there's discussion of minor departures from the site plan as approved may be authorized by the building commissioner after approval of the planning board if required by engineering or other circumstances not foreseen at the time of any change, increasing the size of any building or structure, changing the location of any building, parking, or access roads by more than 10 feet, or reducing landscaping or screening, or increased site lighting levels may be made only through the planning board following the same procedure. So I think it's triggered more by the criteria under Part A. Modifications to an existing development. I don't know, it's kind of a gray area again, because the parking's all there, but you don't have access from one to the other. It's restricting it. So it's one parcel, but it's, it's odd. It's odd.
Yeah, my other question, is that a hardship of their own making? Like, there's a walkway there and they're taking it down and not replacing it. And that's their hardship. They're not replacing the walkway. Like, you can't, so a variance, your hardship, you can't create it. So that's were just my initial thoughts, Ms. Houlihan.
Yeah, I echo your initial concerns or questions. And then I'm just going to say, the 250 just always confuses me because we have this storage facility, we have the contractor's yard. We have 36 parking spaces. And so the 36 parking count that they're adding is not just up there. It's located in the contractor's yard area too.
So the 36 was for the storage facility, correct?
Required for the storage facility.
Yeah, and they have 16 up and then a walkway and 20
and then the
down.
20 down. And then those 20 included in the contractor yard had its own requirements.
Yeah.
And so if they do have overrun, where do people park?
Right.
And how do they access the self-storage unit? I think that would be my biggest question. I think the approval came, I think it would be a modification of site plan because the approval came based on our parking requirements. And we worked with them to get those spaces. And I feel like there was already a variance on the parking that we gave them for some reason.
Let me look.
No.
For the storage facility,
Let me
the
see.
size or something? Or they were 9.5 feet? I feel like we
There wasn't, I think there was an
accommodated
ask.
Oh,
a smaller.
well, so I think the confusion was that we approved parking spaces at our required 9.5 feet. And then when they came back from the modification, their plan said that they were 9 feet.
Oh, okay, so
But I think that they eventually went back to
So
what
let
was
me,
required.
I'll check the decision.
there wasn't a variance that we issued for parking.
Like a waiver, you're saying? I
Yeah,
can
that's
look
what I
really
mean, a waiver.
fast. Hold on. It's right here. Decision. And we see.
I'm so
decision.
glad she has this at the touch of her fingertips.
I know, huh?
Oh, Thanks, huh? All right, this is the major site plan. For the contractor's yard, and the waivers are right here.
Well, that's the contractor's yard.
Oh, you're talking about the
Yeah, I
storage
think we're talking
facility, that one?
storage
Okay, I just
facility.
want to see if they had a waiver
Yeah.
there. Findings, waivers. Waivers, from, show existing trees on the site, zoning district boundary planting area. Require the loading space for the building or structure. And now let me just check the, storage
Go down
facility.
the line. I agree. I think we should probably write a letter to zoning board.
Mr. Maria?
I think that they've been to the Conservation Commission and also the Board of Health. I'm not exactly up on this topic, but at the Board of Health, they were asking for a tight tank for a septic. And I think someone from Concom may have asked if they were looking to A&R and split the lots, and I believe the answer was yes. So I think this is part of sort of maybe something bigger that the Zoning Board of Appeals might be able to get to. I mean, it's not clear to me if the Board of Health granted that request for the tight tank, because it was supposed to be, tight tank is, my understanding, supposed to be used only under like extraordinary circumstances, and they're creating that circumstance by, because their septic isn't right there at the self-storage, right? So they
No, it's down below.
it's down below. So if they split the lot, then they would need septic and they would have to put the tight tank in. So they're creating that scenario where it's not a favorable scenario for the Board of Health. And they asked Concom, my understanding is to write a letter of support, and they refused. So I think this is a bigger project. If you think about it, if that isn't, I don't know for sure, but if that's what they're trying to do, split the lot, they don't need all that parking.
Well, so
And
they,
usage from the building shows they didn't need all that parking.
well, our code requires that parking for the storage facility.
Just for the storage, yeah, yeah. Yeah, so I don't exactly know what the letter is going to say. You should also say that they need to put in a modification, the major site plan, yeah.
Hmm.
No, I agree.
Ms. Brush.
I agree as well.
Yeah, just a couple, I'm not sure where they're getting, I don't know where it was stated about how many parking spots they needed, because that number to me actually does seem like quite high for a 64,000 square foot self-storage facility. I didn't recall the size. I had to Google it really quick. I don't know that that's correct.
It's right on the site plan. If you look on.
Oh, it's on the-
Top
okay.
right corner, they have a parking calculation and it says, similarly, the self-storage use of the existing building has the same parking requirement. One parking space per each 1,500 square feet of gross floor area. And so it's 52,704 square foot require the provision of 36 parking spaces to serve the self-storage use. 18 spaces are provided west of the building and 20-something are provided just east of the footbridge. So a total of 36 spaces are required to serve the self-storage use, and a total of 36 parking spaces are provided that use. In total, 49 parking spaces are required, and so that is what provided, because there's the contractor's yard area too.
Okay, all right. Yeah, because typically self-storage facilities don't require that much because of the nature of what they do. I agree with Mimi earlier that this is almost like a hardship that they're putting upon themselves. One question I had is that they say that even when it was peak occupancy, it never exceeded capacity. By how much? If capacity was 50, do they have 49? I mean, it's pretty much at capacity. Like, it'd be nice if we could see that information. I know right now we're just discussing whether or not we're going to write a letter. We're not interrogating them, but that to me is an interesting point. The other thing is, sure, it might be costly to replace that bridge, and I don't know if ZBA would be open to entertaining the idea of making it contingent. So sure, okay, you don't have to, we can get a temporary, or we can get a waiver to reduce the amount of parking, but if you ever are seen to have parking problems, you have to build that bridge. And that's going to be a construction cost that you're going to incur at a later date. And construction costs are only going to go down, they're not going to go down. So I don't know if that's something that we could, or that they, ZBA, would consider adding on as a restriction.
I think they have wide latitude for a variance because they're not required to give a variance and you're supposed to show a hardship.
And so
So that's interesting.
if their calcs are right and it's never going to exceed, then great. But if it does, then they have to build it. So
Yeah,
that's it.
yeah, that's a good idea.
Splitting the lot. That's an interesting thing. The
Yeah.
bigger plan.
Right. So if they split the lot, then they'd never have access to that other
Right.
parking. So if that condition goes in, we'll have to say something else to gain access to the additional parking. The other thing is that they own the lot that they split off behind. And I don't know if they can put parking back there.
That was conservation though, wasn't there some
Mhm.
restrictions back there?
There was.
Yeah.
There's a stream, but they could build a bridge over it and put parking.
They don't like bridges.
No. But I think clearly there should be some plan. If they exceed parking, they have to address
Agreed.
that.
Yep.
Okay. Do you want me to start that letter?
Absolutely.
Okay. And I have till what? February.
February 11th.
Okay, sorry. Bit of time. Discussion item. Master Plan Implementation Committee Semi-Annual Report, and 2025 Annual Report. Ms. DeMaria.
Okay. Well, let me start. So we're a little late this year. This is the 2025 report, but what I wanted to just do is just say a couple things. So just keeping in mind, the committee members are myself and Alan Collins, the vice chair, and Sam Stivers and Will Warren. We decided as a group that we would use the same update, the master plan implementation report that we're putting into the town annual report, that we would use the same for the planning board. So I just wanted to go over a couple things, and Alan, if you want to add anything.
Can we pull that up?
Oh, okay. Yeah, so what we were using the same format for this annual report, like as last year and maybe even the year before. So it's been kind of a nice format for us, and also kind of interesting to see, what we're focused on this year, what we're doing. And
Can we share this, Colleen? Sorry. Oh,
yeah,
here it
here
goes.
comes. It just
Sorry.
takes a little.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know if she heard me.
I
I'm
know.
Sorry about
I
that.
can't.
Okay.
tell.
Yep, so if you just want to go down, yeah, current status. So last year we highlighted really kind of the areas that hit it out of the park. And I think, thinking about this document is for historical purposes. Somebody 20 years or 50 years from now may look back and say, what were they doing? Last year I think was focused on like recreation and trails and some things like that, where they really made a lot of progress. This year, we're, kind of a little more focused on land use and zoning, housing, and environment and open space. We're starting to keep track of kind of the metrics of goals that are started, not started, came out of the gate, or really in progress. By far, the majority of goals and recommendations, so there's over 200, I think it's 201. Many of them, I think like approaching 70%, are like ongoing and in progress. That's about, I think, the same as last year. The numbers eked a little bit where we have a couple more completed goals. And, and so that number went up, and then of course the not started went down. And of course, by some of the zoning changes that were adopted at town meeting, with the, of course, ADU by right coming in, MBTA communities that hit, housing goals, and the zoning change for the major highway retail hit a major EDC goal. So that was just kind of interesting to take a look back and see, what was what. Frankly, we're still collating and collecting information, especially this time of year. I think what I'm finding is this is a great time to catch up with our boards and committees, because they're also collating the committee stuff, as well. So I have on this just sort of, some of the highlights, and, because this is definitely not everything. We're not even close to everything. This is not really for master plan implementation to kind of, list out everything that's going on with all the boards and committees. But I just highlighted a couple of them, as we just discussed. The other main thing I wanted to mention was that this year, again, the committee is talking about how can we maybe get some, let's say, information to the select board if they need it before their goal-setting meeting. So we know that Mr. Stivers has shown up at some of our meetings in past years, and he's asking, what does the planning board want to do? This year took a little bit of a twist, and what we talked about is, well, before the select board have a lot of power, right? They have, also control the money and all kinds of things. Before they set their goals for the year, which I think is in June, maybe it would be nice to be able to have a presentation with them and present to them, where there are opportunities to finish some of these goals. And so we'd like to invite the planning board to join that. We're thinking about, I need to ask the planning board officially what dates might work. And Sam Stivers is asking the select board what dates might work. And we're thinking like sometime in March. And there'd be like maybe a little presentation, maybe a couple slides, but the majority would be, availability to answer questions. We're not proposing anything as a master plan implementation committee. We're not suggesting anything, but we're definitely starting to see patterns where there's progress being made in some goals and there's like lack of progress in other goals. So I'm just going to stop there. And Alan, I'm sure I've missed some things if you want to add some stuff.
No, I mean, not much. That was a great summary. What I found interesting as a new person to the Master Plan Implementation Committee is asking for updates and not necessarily getting them readily, but I get it. This is a volunteer position. It's challenging to find time. What I was finding is that some of the people I was speaking to were not aware that their department or committee were beholden to goals in the master plan, which was shocking to me because either their predecessors or general communication throughout the board that wasn't passed along. So that was interesting. But we did obviously, as Debbie mentioned, get some updates. The one thing I would think I would want to focus on moving forward is of the ones that are not started, the 16 point something %, is if those continue to stay not started, it'd be interesting to me to understand from those boards and committees as to why, not as a shaming process, but like, hey, was the goal too audacious? Was it did something else get in the way that prevented you from even starting in the first place? So as we move forward into the next master planning event, we should keep that in the back of our mind such that we don't either set these boards and committees up for failure unintentionally, or can we apply that learning to other ones so other ones don't potentially face the same peril?
Yeah, thanks. And Alan brings a great perspective, and I love having him on the committee. I think one thing that we did also is successfully transition the goal tracker that Judith had put together over to the town's OneDrive. And so I think I've taken away everything off of the Google Drive now. So that's a big plus. And I think any board member can see it. I'm not sure if you have access, but I believe if you'd like to poke around in there, we pulled in not just master plan implementation, but all of the historical legacy documents from master plan is in there as well.
I think you have to share it with them.
Oh, I have to share? Okay.
Yeah, whoever is controlling, like the owner of it. It's like Dropbox.
It's Jay right now, yeah.
Yeah, we would have to share it with the members to be able to see it.
Okay, so I don't know if anybody wants to see it, but you know, that can be done. And as Ellen mentioned, we're starting to see, like several of us look at other towns and we say, well, what are they, what are they doing? Some towns have far fewer goals and recommendations, and it would be interesting to see if like they meet a large majority of them, whereas we have a lot. And what Southborough did is very ambitious. So we're starting to see some different things. One area that I'd like to explore next is, I don't know if I'm the right person to do it, but in the master plan committee anticipated where some of those goals and recommendations could be funded from. So the funding source is there. It's either maybe a grant or maybe they would get CPC funds or something like that. I recently added sort of a column to our tracker so we can maybe take a look at the goals that haven't been started and see, well, what's an opportunity? Did the master plan committee think they were going to get a CPC grant? Has that group applied for a CPC grant or CPC funds? So that's just kind of a fun fact. But yeah, so I think we'd like to invite the board if you'd like to meet with the select board sometime in March. And also, I think at any time, if you have ideas about, what we could be doing, I think we really did just go through a huge push on housing and zoning and land use. And, sort of some of it was forced on us by the state of Massachusetts and
Still get credit for it.
Yeah, and the other areas. But yeah, I mean, we can, I think it's very interesting to kind of take a look at that and say, well, we know some goals are falling behind. I mean, you and I talked, the sustainability goals are falling behind. Does town want to do anything about it? Is there an opportunity there? So that's the kind of stuff we want to kind of highlight and have a fruitful discussion with select board and planning board.
Thank you very much. Thank the great work from this committee. And these numbers are fabulous. I know you're a little frustrated by 16%, but if you look at the numbers from the previous master plan, like there was, nothing done. And it's very helpful having somebody, reminding these boards and committees that there was a master plan. And I was listening to the Historical Commission meeting, and they mentioned that they got a call from someone on the committee about where they are and on the master plan goals and these things that we're supposed to do or something like that. I just want to mention that the master plan committee started out with 23 members. We had every single entity that could possibly input into the master plan was part of it. And it ended up, we had to eventually make a lot of people ex officio because they weren't coming, and we needed a quorum in order to be able to do anything. But I know particularly from the Historical Commission, the person assigned didn't come, but Andrew Mills specifically reached out to them to talk about goals, so we would have, you know, some knowledge of what they were thinking to put in the plan. So it's not like we just made stuff up and forced it upon people. All those entities did participate.
Just that one PS to that. One of the things I noticed when this was on Google Drive was that it was set up like pretty dynamically, where you could, the different tabs, you could cross-cut the data in different ways and kind of see progress measured either by department or by committee, or number of goals that were complete versus in progress, and this, that, and the other thing. And I thought that, gee, if we move this to Excel and have it on OneDrive, that would be great. And what Jay had told me from IT was that we can't quite do that because of 508 and accessibility issues. But what we could do is statically print PDFs of those sheets and share those out. And so while not ideal, I think this would give visibility to anyone in town, because as far as I know, I don't know if the rest of the town had visibility to this. And maybe there's some curious folks out there who would want to see what's going on. So if we can, and I can take the responsibility of PDFing an Excel book, it's not hard, but maybe just in putting it somewhere, a link off of our planning board page to say, if you're interested, you can get to it here. Again, because I don't think it has been accessible before. So
Yeah,
Great.
thank you. Great idea.
Yeah.
And just to mention, Judith Watson was a wizard.
Oh,
Phenomenal.
oh yeah, this is not taking anything away from her at
Oh,
all.
my God.
Yep, she was phenomenal.
I was the chair, she was the vice chair. I'd open every meeting and say, Judith?
Yeah.
So thank you very much, Alan and Debbie and the rest of the committee. Great job.
Totally. Nice job.
The next item on the agenda, open space notification education letter. I don't know if you remember the last time that Lucas was in, we discussed notifying people that they had open space on their property. And we decided we should send the letter to the Open Space Preservation Commission for their comment, which we did in August, and we haven't heard. So I put it back on here. Should we just move along, or the
Can I-
next step? Go
Can I
ahead.
speak to this one? Yep. So I did speak to Freddie about this. What I would suggest is, when I kind of took on rewriting this, I kind of had a vision of where this was going to go. So what I would suggest is, between now and the next meeting, I'll talk to Freddie more about this, kind of get her thoughts. I know it's tough for the commission to meet. And then what I would like to do is kind of bring a vision of what I see going with this letter. You know, when I thought about it as we were creating this from Lucas was, you know, you can't just send this without actually sending someone like a copy of their subdivision. And I have most of those reports from when it was done prior, you know, including a picture of their subdivision. So somebody can look at their lot and say, oh, I didn't know this is where it's at. So that's kind of what I envisioned. So I would ask that the board allow me to do this between now and the next meeting and come with like a sample. So you could kind of see what I visioned and then add your visions in it as well. And we could get moving on this. That's really, I think it's important. And I think as more letters come from Lucas, I think it's all about education. And then that was a general discussion I had briefly with Freddie, was it's not about enforcement at this point or anything. It's about educating, letting people know, but also letting them know that encroachments are important and, you know.
Are you
so-
talking about the summary letter in the deed research database and that?
No, the
highlighted
letter,
plan? No, I know the letter you're talking about that goes out, but you said you envision a plan of their
So-
property in with the letter.
So way back, Karina, and again, I'm gonna pick one of the subdivisions we had
Mhm.
done prior when I was on open space, the open space, I can't think what it was called at the time, Mimi, but I still have all the files, it's going
Deed
in
research.
deed research.
That's
Okay.
what I'm talking about.
Yes, so pulling a copy, I have a scanned copy of the subdivisions, all color coded, which was,
Yes.
yes, it was
You still
utilizing
have
those, and I was
access.
gonna work with you as well between now and the
Yeah.
next meeting, so,
Okay.
yeah, so
But you have access to the deed research database.
I do from when I was on open space.
Yeah, and Lucas just completed adding 5 more locations.
So I don't know if I have access to the new ones. I only have access to
You
what
do,
was-
if you have a Gmail, you can.
Okay, I'll talk to you offline
Yeah.
about that and I'll get full access. I just have the actual files from when I was on open space.
Yeah, I have, yeah, I
Yeah,
see what you're
so-
saying. But the summary file, if you're
Okay.
talking about that, where it describes, you're just talking about the plan.
The
that's
plans
color-coded.
itself, right.
Okay.
Yeah, but we can talk, certainly, Karina, again.
We'll figure it
just
out.
To make it easier, but I think it'd be great to have maybe a couple different options for the board to look at and decide which one you like best. But I do think it's important to get this going. And again, I'm happy to, been talking about this since 2005 when I was on open space. So I'm more than happy to jump in and do some mailings and do whatever it takes.
And
once the
people might
board-
be more interested when they have something like that to look at.
Oh, yeah.
So it really is.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of people,
Absolutely.
we look at catch basin, we know what it means and what it
Right.
does. Other people drive by and say, oh, throw my
Yeah.
can down there or whatever, you know.
So I'll
different-
talk to Karina offline about it, and I know it's getting late, so I'm not gonna say much more about it.
Okay.
If the board is willing, then I'll come up with a couple samples for our next meeting.
I'm perfectly willing to let you do all that work.
Thank you. And I'm happy to do the mailings as well.
My only feedback, Lisa, was a little bit more on if it is education. A lot of people, like, it's kind of like the upfront positivity of open space and why we value it in Southborough, which I think would just be like a nice precursor. And if you don't mind, if I provide some
Please.
thoughts on the letter.
Please, absolutely.
Perfect.
Again, this was just me trying to make it
I'd
more
love-
friendly, but again.
Easier
it's-
to edit than create.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. So
my God.
absolutely, I would appreciate that very much.
Okay.
Anything else on that? Just that, the thought about the deed research database.
Mhm.
I think the original thought was that that would be publicly accessible, but we didn't want it to be able to be edited.
Right.
So I don't know.
First step is to move it off the Google Drive onto our OneDrive.
Oh, okay.
That will be the first goal.
All right.
And that takes a little effort, but then it can be more controlled that way. And,
Okay.
but we do have the GIS mapping online that does have open space areas.
Yep. Okay. The next item on the agenda. So we finished with that, dump it all on Lisa and we're good?
Yep, Marty, I'm gonna forward it to you right now.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, planners report.
Okay. I'll make this as quick as I can. We have a few things here. So we had a department head meeting this morning. There's a lot of talk about the budget. But one good thing, Don Morris presented for the Tricentennial Committee and outlined a whole bunch of events that they're planning already. So if anyone's interested, I'll let you, I can speak to those if you give me a call, or if I do have bandwidth, maybe I'll do a little summary, or Don might provide it. So that was one thing.
Doesn't want to come back to the planning board to visit?
Update, I guess at the select board meeting, the representatives for Costco came in and gave an update on where they're at. I think I forwarded you a copy of that information. Annual elections coming up. There are some deadlines for papers and submitting them back in. Okay. We submitted the planning board's annual report, which they got. We made one little addition after the fact, and that was to make sure we listed Lisa as CPC. Yeah. Chair, yeah. That's the plan. MTC has a survey out. Annual survey on town services. So you can find that on MTC's website, probably a link to that. are interested. I think I forwarded that to everybody. The 150 Corderville Road battery energy storage system is still at zoning. So but ultimately, they have to come to planning board for site plan. So I haven't gotten anything there yet. I think they already got approved there.
I think
because
they
it
already
was
got
Board of
approved at the
Issues.
ZBA.
Oh, they did. Okay. Well, I haven't heard from them yet on site plan, and I'll have to look if Lara is good about distributing the decision. So once I have that, I'll forward it. And we can take that from there.
They were there. I thought there was a decision, but maybe not.
I'll have to look.
Yes.
We did submit, we already talked about that part. Let's see here. Tricentennial Committee. The big thing is the warrant closes March 10th. Let's see here. Annual reports went in. I think that's pretty much it. Let me see. In your packets today, we distributed the 352 Turnpike. There's a major site plan approval application for a Dover use on the third floor is my understanding, but I have to read it more carefully for a change of use. So that's been submitted and filed with the town clerk, and we're in the process of distributing the packets to the town departments and to the planning board members. So that's in the works. And legal ad's been put out. I'm also meeting with Shannon Boyce tomorrow with Capital Group Properties to review her application for the 154 Turnpike non-compliance issues there. Right, she finally has her land, yeah, modification. Okay, and that's what I have for planners report. We have several meeting minutes.
Thank you, Karina. I make a motion to approve the minutes from November 10th, 2025.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Houlihan, yes.
Demiria, yes.
Russia abstain.
Belniak, yes.
I make a motion to approve the minutes for December 4th, 2025.
Second.
For discussion, just one little thing. The minutes are fabulous, by
Oh,
the way.
yeah. Yep, meant to say that.
Line 14, after code, just insert the code 17410J, so we know what we're
So
talking
line
about.
14.
After the word code,
Mhm.
insert 17410J. That's it. Any other discussion? No. Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Houlihan, yes.
Demiria, yes.
Russia, yes.
Belniak, yes.
Yes, just to reinforce, Susan, the job on the minutes has been outstanding and they're just so crystal clear and well done.
Yeah.
I make a motion to approve the December 8th, 2025 minutes.
I second.
So for discussion, one little teeny. So line 141, remove the MBTA overlay and replace it with the Res B development standards, which is what we were,
All right.
Remove the MBTA communities overlay.
yeah, and replace it with Res B development standards.
Where's the development standard?
That's all I got. Any other discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Houlihan, yes.
Demiria, yes.
Russia, yes.
Belniak, yes.
I make a motion to approve the December 19th, 2025 minutes.
I don't think we have those.
With the
December
23rd.
19th.
Oh, it was the 23rd that was in there.
Yeah, I think the
Sorry.
19th was
Executive.
Executive session.
that
Oh, right.
Colleen is working on.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry, I make a motion to approve the December 23rd, 2025 minutes.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Houlihan abstain.
Demiria, yes.
Russia, yes.
Belniak, yes.
Our next meeting is January 26th at 2026. in 2026. And I make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes.
Houlihan, yes.
Demiria, yes.
Russia, yes.
Bellniak, yes.
I need you to just sign the A and R